Um, Again, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Igor. I have the privilege of serving as chair of the Environmental Caucus. I'm joining you live from Chochenyo Alani land in Berkeley, California. And I'm going to pass the baton over to my counterpart and fellow troublemaker, the amazing chair of this, of an amazing caucus, the CDP Children's Caucus, Ann Crosby, to introduce herself.
Thank you, Igor. Ann Crosby, my pronouns are she, her. And I would remind everyone, this is a great opportunity to take a minute to change your pronouns on so that they reflect and we can address you appropriately. And we're all very glad that you're here. Super important topics that we'll be sharing this evening that impact the world we live in and the children who we support. So, Igor.
Great, thank you so much. And do you have caucus members that you would like, caucus officers that you'd like to have them introduce themselves?
I'm looking to see if my caucus officers are here. And I'll tell you, the easiest way to be recognized is if you raise your hand, then you jump up to the top of the list. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and introduce who our officers are. For our Northern California Vice Chair, we have Jamie Yee. And for our Southern California Vice Chair, we have Daniel Peden. Currently, we have an opening for a treasurer. Gerald Peden, who's been serving as our treasurer, a really terrific supporter of children, has moved out of his area. So we wish him well. We hope we continue to see him, but we now need to replace the treasurer for the Children's Caucus. So anyone who's interested, I am going to put my contact information in the chat and you can reach out to us. We'd love to have you join us fighting for children. And we have our secretary, Abba Nagisa, and our parliamentarian is James Kiriako, and our legislation chair is Loxie Grant. And that's our troop. How about for you?
Amazing. So I'm gonna ask for the same thing. I know not all of our officers are here yet, but those who are here, if you're an officer of the Enviro Caucus, if you could please raise your hand and I will call on you. I do see some folks. Let's start with Stacy.
Hey, if you can hear me, Stacy Fortner. I am in Santa Clarita, California. I'm in Assembly District 38 on Tatavian land. And it's great to be here tonight. Thanks, everyone. And hi.
Hi, Stacy. Thank you so much for joining. Let's go to Mo next.
Are we doing reports right now, Igor, or are we just doing intros?
Actually, yes. If you could also make this part of your report, that would be great.
Okay. The reason that I was asking was I didn't prepare a written report or anything, but one thing that all of the participants here will notice is that our caucus is not shy about sharing information, and we send out an abundance of emails. So you know what we're doing on a policy front probably every minute of every day. So I will save the speaking for the actual invited speakers that we have, and I can email everyone in the caucus and everyone who's here at this meeting a little bit later, and that way we don't have to go through long drawn out reports. So that's all I had to say, Igor.
Thank you so much for that report. Let's go to Mo next.
Hello, good evening, guys. My name's Moises Hernandez, go by Mo. I'm a delegate for AD 31, representing rural communities in Fresno County. I live here in Sanger. I serve as secretary for the Environmental Caucus. Would you like me to do a report on our comps, Igor, as well?
this would be a great time to do that.
Okay, yes. So I will be dropping links into our social medias that we have running and active. We have a Facebook, we have a Twitter. We also do have a website, which has been the product of the great work of Ray and Sean, are the main chief engineers on the website. Our Facebook right now has 506 likes and 525 follows. Our Twitter only has three people that are following that. So I'm gonna drop the link, and if you guys can, you know, go and give us a like, give us a follow, and check out the website, which has been done really great by Ray. So again, it's a pleasure meeting you guys all.
Thank you so much. Mo is also hard at work on draft minutes from the previous meeting we had at the last e-board, the last regularly scheduled e-board meeting. So once those are ready, they will be shared with the caucus. This is a great opportunity to remind folks that if you are not yet a member of either of or one or both of our caucuses, please sign up. I just dropped a link in the chat. This is how you sign up, not only for our two caucuses, but for any and all of the amazing 21 caucuses that we have in the CDP right now. And with that, thank you so much for your report, Mo, and let's go to Art next.
Thank you once again, Igor, for making all this happen. I know that the rest of the team also contributes, but there's just so much work that goes into this. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. I think a lot of people have put in a lot of time, and on top of the work that we do engaging in protecting the earth and the future of our kids, I think that this was an excellent opportunity for us to do a joint caucus meeting, because the existential threat of climate change is at our doorsteps, and yet the Republicans still refuse to even consider some, basic steps to protect Mother Earth. So we've kind of hit the ground running in the Central Valley, and had to implement different strategies than usual, but nonetheless holding their feet to the fire and calling them out. That's I don't think we have the privilege anymore, and we're seeing a lot more young people come out and be engaged, and different organizations stepping up and being more engaged in the protection of our dry watersheds here in the Central Valley. And I'm Art Rodriguez. Igor?
Thank you so much, brother. Let's go to Andrew next.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Lewis. I use he, him pronouns. I'm in Westwood Village, next to UCLA. I'm the SoCal Vice Chair. I'm glad to be here. We're going to hear a bit later as part of my report from the awesome Lorraine Lundquist, who I think some of you know. I believe she's literally teaching in class right now, but she'll be on later, to hear about Aliso Canyon and the updates there. But just a quick note from my friends from Food and Water Watch Action, that today communities from LA and Ventura are in Sacramento to demand Governor Newsom shut down Aliso Canyon and Playa del Rey gas storage facilities and stop the expansion of the Ventura compressor station. Today actually marks the 2-year anniversary of Governor Newsom's directive to the CPUC to expedite closing of Aliso Canyon, and instead they actually ramped up use of Aliso, which doesn't make sense to me. Anyways, we'll hear from Lorraine a bit later about that, but glad to be here. Hopefully I didn't take up too much time.
No, this is great. Thank you so much for that update. We have a hand raised from Forrest. Forrest is an active member of our caucus, so let's see what this hand is about. Welcome.
Oh, I was just raising the hand for introduction.
Great. Forrest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Yes, so I am on the occupied Ohlone land, which is not cool. I spent a lot of time in Forest Hill, which is occupied Maidu land, which is also not cool. And I really respect a lot of that we do in the Environmental Caucus. I'm also a member of the Children's Caucus, but I do appreciate a lot about the Environmental Caucus. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is great. Thank you for that report. We are gonna go to, sorry, I'm going to turn this over to Anne first to see if there's any caucus business that she wants to discuss.
I don't have anything at this time, or just whatever's next on our agenda.
Excellent. So we actually have a few minutes before our next speaker. So what I thought I would do is turn things back over to Mo first to give us an update about how our website is progressing. And some of the amazing work that has been going on that front. So Mo, please take it away.
Yeah, Igor, if I could say more about the website, I would. But if Ray or Sean is on the call, they would be much better, adept to comment on the website. But if you guys do click on the link, you guys could just see what he does already have on there, the issues that we're following. So I don't know, is Ray on the call? Could we ask if he's on the call?
Yeah, I don't see him on right now, which means that he may be on later. But yeah, the website is progressing. And also, I don't see Shani on. Hopefully she will join later to give an update about a really exciting committee or subcommittee of the caucus working on animal welfare. We are, our goal is to be a distributedly organized caucus. So if you have an idea for something, issues that you really want to work on, this is a great opportunity to do that. Please let us know. I will drop my email in the chat and you can reach out to any of our officers. Also, we are going to be staffing up, so look out for some emails in the next month around appointed positions. These will be folks that will help us strengthen our reach to Democrats across the state working on environmental and environmental justice issues. I see that we have been joined by some more officers, so I'm going to recognize Julia, our NorCal Vice Chair. Julia, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Julia Pashnik, really thrilled to be part of the group and be in the caucus. I'm actually a member of both the Children's and Environmental Caucus, and on my way to go pick them up from school right now. But also just wanted to say I'm thrilled to be part of the team. I work in electricity and grid reliability and energy storage, and look forward to working with all of you. Also just decided to, with the team's guidance, we created a just and equitable transition working group where we sent out an email to the organization to ask for more input from everybody to help strengthen relationships and help strengthen communication dialogue among environmental advocates, environmental justice advocates, and labor advocates. So we'll go out and send that email again, but look forward to your joining our groups and working together to start really building bridges with our labor colleagues and environmental colleagues. So thank you all so much. Great to see you today. And thanks for all your amazing work and making a difference.
Thank you so much, Julia. And Julie is also working on a really cool proposal that she will talk about later on in this meeting. So don't go anywhere. It's going to be epic, just like this whole meeting. I'm going to recognize Denora. Denora has joined us. She's a treasurer, so she will give us the treasurer's report. And she's also a member of the Sunrise Movement. Welcome, Denora. Would you like to give your update?
Hi, everyone. I'm on my phone because my computer needs to be fixed, but I'm happy to be here again. Yeah, so for treasurer report, there's nothing to report. If we, to my knowledge, we haven't spent any money. So the budget for that should be the same as the last meeting, which I believe was in the thousands. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the budget report. In terms of that, if there's anything that we are willing to spend money on going forward, if you could just communicate that with me and we can get that resolved and see if it's within budget and talk about reimbursements and things. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Denora. And we will be recirculating the link in the chat, or maybe I will just ask Andrea to post it. Shout out to Andrea, who has been taking great care of us with this meeting today. And Andrea, if you could post periodically the link to sign up, not just for this caucus, but for all the caucuses in the CDP, that would be fantastic. Also want to give out to our amazing ASL interpreter, Brenda Terry, virtual applause. It's a lot of work, and we really appreciate your being here with us today. We have had some more folks join. I wanted to recognize Christophe LaBelle for a minute or two. Christophe is my successor as the California Young Democrats Environmental Caucus Chair, and doing a great job. Christophe, thank you for being here, and we'd love to hear.
South Bay here in Silicon Valley, and yeah, excited to be here as always. Looks like there's an awesome program coming up. We do indeed have an environmental caucus as part of California Young Democrats. So whether you're a Young Democrat, you're not involved yet, or if you know Young Democrats who'd be interested, feel free to help them get plugged in. We have our own retreat as part of California Young Democrats in just a few weeks in the Monterey area. So that's one way to gather. Otherwise, we have a lot going on, plenty of interest from folks around the state, whether it's dealing with fossil fuels or working lands, transit and transportation and the like. And we're excited to continue to partner and get ready to win some more races in 2022. Thanks, Igor.
Thank you so much. And yes, please, I will be, I know because of climate change, this is the first time that the CYD retreat will not be in Tahoe for as long as probably I've been alive. But I'm looking forward to joining CYD on the Central Coast next month. And I hope others of you consider doing the same and pitch into CYD. CYD is an incredible organization, and certainly was my home before this caucus became my home. Thank you so much, Christophe, for being here and representing. I want to recognize Arel Miller, my much more talented predecessor as chair of this caucus, to introduce herself. She will also be giving some update later, so stay tuned. Arel, you have the phone.
I don't have anything to say right now. Yeah, most of the environmental caucus folk know me. And for children's caucus folk who don't, I was the chair of the caucus for 8 years until April or thereabouts. And I've been working with Ann Crosby over the last year or two, I guess. And I have to say that she's a total rock star. And I'm just amazed at how wonderful she is, and your caucus is in good hands, as is the environmental caucus with Igor and a very, very talented board that he has assembled. I will be talking on the platform a little bit later on. And for right now, just say hi to me and I'll have random dogs wandering in and out. Thank you.
We love dogs of all kinds. Thank you for being a dog mom, in addition to all the many wonderful things that you do. I do see that Ray has joined us, and Ray has been really the brain behind the operations for a lot of our communications efforts. So Ray Barglow, would you like to give an update?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I've been working on the website, and I've been thinking about communications, although that's not a part that I know so well. I know web design pretty well, though. And our website is envirocaucus.org, and it's in process. And if any of you would like to help, you're welcome to jump in. That's it from me.
Thank you. Ray, if you could post your contact info in the chat. I know we have, oh, and also post the link to our website. Please let Ray know if you would like to help out with this operation. Thank you so much. We are about 6 minutes out from our presentation, or our next speaker. I wanted to see if there are any candidates here that have joined early and wish to speak for just a minute. We'd love to recognize you. Are there any candidates in the room?
Hi, yes, this is Ruth Luovanos.
Hi, Ruth.
You want me to go now?
Yes, and just by way of background, and this is a tradition that was started by Ariel, my much more talented predecessor. We welcome all candidates to come speak before the caucus. We know that there are environmental champions because we asked them to sign a no fossil fuel pledge that I will post a link in the chat so you can see what it looks like. And we know that all the candidates coming before us either have already signed this pledge or are going to do it right after they're done with their presentation. So with that little background tidbit, Ruth, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I greatly appreciate this opportunity. My name is Ruth Luovanos. I am a teacher running for Congress in California's 25th Congressional District, which includes Antelope Valley, Santa Clarita Valley, and Simi Valley. I am the first Democrat elected to Simi Valley City Council ever. And I am here because I am running on the issues that most impact us. As a teacher of 22 years and an environmental activist, I am at the heart of the intersectionality of environmental issues and issues that impact our children. We literally have cases of bottled water brought to our campus every week. I teach at a continuation high school in Reseda High School because there's so much lead in the pipes that the water is not potable at my school. And it has been 22 years that I've been teaching in LA Unified Schools, and not one of the schools that I've ever taught at has had potable water. So I'm literally at the heart of the fight for environmental justice, and that which impacts our children every single day, including making sure that we have high-speed rail, making sure that we, do what we need to do to make sure that our schools are healthy. I'm going to be fighting for the infrastructure bill to take care of our children and our schools and make sure that they have healthy schools that are free of asbestos, free of mold, that they have potable water that they can drink, clean, healthy water from the drinking fountains. That's something that impacts us every single day, and also making sure that we battle climate change. And so I'm fighting on every front in the classroom, on city council, on the board of directors of Clean Power Alliance. And of course, I have already signed the pledge as a city councilwoman. I will sign again as a candidate for Congressional District 25 to not take any fossil fuel money and not take any oil and gas money, because I know that that is impacting our children. I'm a mother as well. And I'm also fighting for the cleanup of Santa Susana Field Lab. And I also testified against the expansion of the Liso Canyon gas facility because I know that this is our children's fight and our family's fight. So thank you for the time to present myself as a candidate for California's 25th Congressional District, as a teacher, a mother, an environmental activist, and someone that's going to fight for the issues that impact us every single day. As a cancer survivor, I know what that means, and I'm going to be fighting for the people in the district of the 25th Congressional District. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Igor. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ruth. It's so exciting when we have people who know what the day-to-day struggle is, especially as a continuation. High school teachers, such an important role, and to see women stepping forward to run for office. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I want to recognize, we have been joined by another officer. Let me just make sure. Yes, Jose, would you like to introduce yourself and give your report? Jose, if you can hear me. Okay, maybe later. We have been joined by another candidate, I believe. I saw, if you are a candidate and would like to speak right now for 2 minutes, please raise your hand and we will recognize you. Pia, welcome. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Whenever you're ready.
Oh, I get to speak?
You get to speak.
Fantastic. Hi there, my name is Thea Selby. I am running for assembly in District 17, which is the east side of San Francisco. I am a mom of 2 kids, a 20 and a 24-year-old who I've raised in the district, so I know what it's like to be a working family in San Francisco. I am a small business owner. I've had a business for 20 plus years, and we've managed through thick and through thin to stay in business, and I'm very, keenly aware of how badly small businesses have fared during COVID. I'm also a City College trustee, and I joined the board of the City College in San Francisco, which is a wonderful school, thank you, because I wanted to make sure that it was fiscally stable. And I'm proud to say after 7 years that we have a balanced budget and that we have hired a permanent chancellor with a CPA who I think will keep us going down the path of fiscal stability. So I'm interested in going into Sacramento to serve the people of San Francisco for a couple of main reasons, and one of them both of them I think you care about a lot. But the first is equity. I think with my education background, I recognize that people are brought up and able to live good lives through education. And there are not enough people in Sacramento who have a deep understanding of what public education is all about. And I want to be one of those people who makes sure that we get more funding, things like Prop 15 back on the ballot to make sure that we have the funding for not only our K-12s, but also our community colleges, which we were the first free community college probably for all residents in the United States of America. And we need to continue that as we move forward. Equity is one part where there are all sorts of different things we can do in San Francisco, including housing to increase equity. Building more housing will certainly do that. But the other is with the 20 and the 24-year-old that I have, they both believe that they're not going to make it. They don't believe that they're going to have long lives because, of course, we have a crisis with our climate. So I want to make sure there are 12 years in the total possibility of what you can get as an assembly member. And if the voters will have me, I want to work for those 12 years to make sure that we meet or exceed our climate goals. And I have all sorts of ways to do that, including my passion, which is transportation. 47% in San Francisco of our carbon emissions come, unfortunately, from transportation, most of that from cars and trucks. I am educating myself on hydrogen fuel cells, potentially for trucks, which I think is something we really need to look into for long haul. And I think we've got to move people from cars as much as possible over to abundant, affordable, accessible, and equitable public transportation. And I know that people think San Francisco's got great transportation. Well, we do, but it's not equitable. If you're out in the Bayview, if you're in Viz Valley, if you're in the avenues, it's basically like being anywhere else. There's just not enough public transportation. So if we want to move those people from cars into public transportation, we need to shift not only San Francisco, but all of California, I would hope, into understanding that we've got to really rely on high-speed rail. I was on the High-Speed Rail Authority Board for the long hauls instead of planes. And then let's look at, really increasing the amount of public transportation we have. So equity and climate, those are my two main reasons for going into. I'm the only woman in the race. I'm the only parent in the race, and I would be honored with I don't know if you can endorse, but I'd be honored with your endorsement if you can.
Thank you so much. Yes, for everyone, which should be every caucus chair who's been through the training, we cannot endorse as a caucus. We are an appendage of the party. However, we are hundreds of members strong. And thank you so much for being here again. Any candidate welcome to speak as long as they have signed or will be signing right after this, the fossil fuel free pledge, which has been posted in the chat.
I'm happy to do so, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Councilmember Kate Harrison. Councilmember Kate Harrison may be known as a council member to those in the Berkeley community. To me, she's known as a co-conspirator. We've been conspiring to make good travel together for many years. Kate has been a champion of many progressive causes and is a champion on the city council on energy justice and equity issues and bringing a Green New Deal to the city of Berkeley and beyond. So she wanted to give an example of what is possible in other jurisdictions across the state, because we certainly hope as goes Berkeley, so goes the state, and as goes the state, so goes the nation. So without further ado, you are recognized, Madam Council Member.
Unmuting. You think I know this after all these years. I'm very glad to be here today. I want to tell you a little bit about a recent initiative that we have submitted that I consider a triple win. It's a win for labor, it's a win for the environment, and it's a win for low-income people in our communities. We are introducing a measure before our budget committee this November to create a $1.5 million fund using ARPA money, the federal relief funds, to electrify existing buildings. This effort has been a long time in coming. We started, of course, with a large effort in Berkeley to electrify all new buildings. We were the first in the nation to pass the gas ban on new buildings, but we realized that left behind much of our housing stock. I don't have to repeat what climate emergency we're facing, but suffice to say, we don't have time to wait. We recently received, as did all of your communities, money from the American Rescue Plan. We got $66 million for that. And we are also seeing astounding revenue gains in our property transfer tax. Despite the downturn in the economy for many. We know it's an unequal playing field, and property values have continued to escalate here. Natural gas combustion in Berkeley buildings is about 31% of our city's sector-based emissions inventory. And many of the owners of the city's approximately 46,000 units do not have the resources to electrify, nor do they have the information needed to do so, or the contacts with people that can do the work for them. So we need significant government co-investment. This item seeks to expand to include low and moderate income homeowners and tenants, the ultimate missing middle, representing a broad swath of the city's building stock. Funds will be spent through qualified organizations, such as affordable housing developers and a group called Rebuilding Together, which works with low-income homeowners repairing their homes, using qualified labor paid a prevailing wage. We're expecting to facilitate about 400 retrofits because our staff believes that providing a grant as little as $2,500, in addition to all the other incentives that are currently available, is significant enough to persuade many owners to electrify. You know, if we're going to survive this climate catastrophe, we need to think Dunkirk, 1,000 small boats, while relying on the federal government to pull off D-Day, the massive investment. So a lot of people say, why bother at the local level? Why are you doing this? Why don't you just let the federal government do it? Let the private sector do it. But I think that we need to bring people into this climate movement, and we also need to create a pilot program to show success. So when we receive these additional federal funds, we're ready to use them effectively. This is going to help us pilot test what we need to do to electrify our existing building stock. I should say that we first recommended this in 2019. We held off because of COVID. We also, during that period, realized we wanted to focus on lower income households. We recently received, many cities participated in this, a Rising Sun Center for Opportunity grant to look at California workforce development. The grant was called the High Road to Residential Building Decarb, and it convened more than 20 cities, government agencies, unions, employees, and advisors to look at how we can involve ourselves in a just transition as we electrify our buildings. But it didn't fund any actual work. This proposal would fund actual work using those same principles and is now, as I said, in the November budget process, sorry. The Alameda County Building Trades and Construction Trades Workforce Initiative reached out to us and asked that we be certain to add certain elements, including minimum labor standards benefiting unionized contractors. Let me give you a few of the details. Funds would be spent on pre-qualified contractors meeting minimum quality and labor standards similar to the city's existing project labor agreements. This approach ensures workers are properly trained, licensed, and compensated, eliminates the need for property owners and renters to find qualified contractors, and is a mid-market program that pays the contractors directly rather than relying on rebates to be applied for by the property owner. It achieves economies of scale, and it allows us to leverage other regional and federal funding. This just transition component is key to me. We need to move off fossil fuels in a manner that protects workers and communities economically dependent on the fossil fuel industry. The transition isn't just if it leaves out impact to workers. So in conclusion, you know, this is one of the most critical decades in human history, but it's also, ARPA funding is a once in a lifetime opportunity. These two things are coming together at a really unusual time to allow us to lead the region and the state in decarbonizing existing buildings. And I'm really proud to do so in partnership with our friends in the labor movement. So with that, I'll take any questions or have any thoughts.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Unfortunately, because of a packed agenda, we won't have time for questions tonight, but if you could leave your contact info in the chat, please reach out, because this is a really exciting program and we hope it catches, no, that's a bad analogy. I was going to say catches fire.
I would be happy to, and your sound went out, Mr. Tregu. I want to apologize to the ASL interpreter. I was not looking at the chat. I was reading my notes. I realize I speak very quickly, and my sister is an ASL interpreter, Shelley Lawrence. You might know her, and she is always telling me to slow down. So I'm very sorry I was speaking so quickly, and I didn't see your note asking me to slow down. But thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from many of you about how we can do this together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council Member. We please post your contact info in the chat. Also, just if we can take a moment to just do virtual applause to all of our ASL interpreters today and our captioner and staff member, Andrea Guzman, who's taking very good care of us. Thank you so much for all that you're doing to make this meeting an inclusive space. Yes, big shout out. And also a gentle reminder to everyone who will follow to please speak slowly enough that the captioner can capture what you're saying. With that, it is my sincere pleasure to introduce Senator Mike McGuire. We all like Mike. I mean, like, he is, I wish that his energy could rub off on me. Because now that I work in the solar and storage field, his energy is like a battery that never needs recharging. So thank you so much for working tirelessly, not just for the North Bay community, but for our entire state. The senator is here to talk about a really important issue that we want to make sure will not catch us flat-footed. It's both a preposterous issue and it's so preposterous. No one thought it would have a chance, but somehow it keeps coming back. So it's a really important issue. Please pay attention to what the senator has to tell us and how we can support this effort that he's spearheading. Mike, thank you for joining us.
Mr. Chair, thank you so much. Madam Chair, it's wonderful to see you. Good evening, everybody. Very grateful to be with you here this evening. And Mr. Chair, you hit the nail on the head. It is preposterous, it is ridiculous, and it's dangerous. And here to talk with you about a dangerous proposal that the coal barons out of Utah, Wyoming, and Montana want to advance here in California. And it involves hundreds of millions of tons of coal coming through the North Bay area and up the North Coast. Long story short, represent about a third of the California coastline. On that coastline, there is a mostly dilapidated 320-mile railroad. That railroad had been in operation for over a century. It started in 1918. That railroad is located in some of the most beautiful landscapes on the face of the earth. It runs alongside the shores of the Humboldt Bay, San Francisco Bay, along with the Eel and Russian River. The Eel and Russian River is the drinking water supply to over 1 million people. Now, there is a proposal to transition that mostly defunct railroad into the West's longest coal train route. This coal train is backed by over $1 billion by coal barons and big coal out of the state of Utah, Montana, and Wyoming. They have an application in front of the federal government, even as we speak, to start this massive proposal that would ship 800 cars every day, about a ton of coal in each train car through the North Bay area, all the way up from San Francisco Bay and into Humboldt Bay to be offloaded and then loaded onto barges and container ships to go over to Asia. Now, here's the bottom line. Thanks to Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, our previous chair, Miller, who was also on with us, and each and every one of you, California has ended its reliance on coal many years ago. This same group tried to be able to get coal out of the Port of Oakland. They also tried to get coal out of the Port of Seattle up in King County, Washington. This is literally their last gasp to be able to ship out of a deep water port on the northern west coast of the United States to get to Asia. We have an alternative proposal that we've been working on since 1918. to form the longest rail trail in the United States of America. It's called the Great Redwood Trail. 320 miles, transition that former railway into a hiking, biking, and equestrian trail. Here's what we're doing. We have a similar proposal in front of the federal government to rail bank that entire line. That would allow us to transition and lay a trail on top of the rail alongside the Pacific Ocean, the Eel River, the Russian River, and in some of the most spectacular landscapes that we see on the planet. We have dueling proposals in front of the federal government even as we speak. We need your support tonight. We're going to post a petition in the chat. If you'd be willing to be able to push this petition out far and wide. We're also going to be asking the California Democratic Party to come out firmly against this toxic coal train proposal. We're also introducing SB 307 this year that would bar the state of California from investing any public state funds into improving the infrastructure for a coal train, both on the rail as well as the port of Humboldt. We're going to need your support to fight dirty coal. We all know this. Coal is the #1 contributor to our climate crisis, the #1 contributor. California can't be the catalyst of a kickstart for coal in Asia. We have to stop this. The last thing I'm going to say, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair, is this. The state of California will be investing literally hundreds of millions of dollars to transition this rail into trail, but it's under direct threat right now. $1.2 billion is what these coal barons want to pump into this proposal, and it's going to be up to us to stop it. So if you wouldn't mind, please sign the petition. Please send it far and wide. And when we do have a resolution in front of the California Democratic Party, we'd be honored to be able to have your support. Thank you so much, Madam Chair and Mr. Chair, for your leadership. And we look forward to working with you to be able to stop big coal from coming into California.
Thank you so much, Senator McGuire. This is so important. There has been a petition link posted in the chat. I urge you, I implore you to, before you do anything else, to sign this petition. Let's get this done. And thank you so much. Again, our caucus doesn't just like Mike, we love Mike.
Thank you so much.
That sentiment is shared with both caucuses. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for your support and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you to you as well. It is now my pleasure to give the mic over to Dinora, our treasurer, who will introduce the next set of guest speakers tonight.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy and I'm really excited to introduce you to Alejandro, who is the Orange County Sunrise Movement Coordinator, Hub Coordinator. And he'll be giving us an update on Poseidon and their efforts that OC Sunrise has been doing. And they've been very involved in making awareness in terms of that. So I'm super excited to introduce Alejandro, and I will stop talking and let him take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Dinora, for the introduction. Yeah, like she said, we do work together in Orange County under the Sunrise Movement, and I want to talk about Poseidon. So I'll just jump straight into it because I know time is short and you have a lot on your agenda. But pretty much a desalination plant sucks water out of the ocean, takes the salt out, and then provides water. It sounds like a good idea theoretically, but it's very carbon intensive. The salt water gets thrown back into the ocean, which kills sea life. Sucking the water in from the ocean also kills sea life. And on top of that, it would raise rates across Orange County. So it's an EJ issue as well. I'm sharing this link for California desal facts. So we have a petition there with some facts on desalination, because I know I won't be able to get to everything right now. But if you all want to go on there and check it out, that's where we'll have updates and we'll let you know what's going on. I testified yesterday in front of the Coastal Commission to try to block some of the things that Poseidon is trying to do, as well as in CEDLAC, because they're also trying to take a $1.1 billion private activity loan away from affordable housing to be used for them. So they're really getting their hands into like a lot of really negative things. And I'm also going to share my screen very quickly, if that's okay, because they another thing that they're doing now, a lot of alt-right people in California, what they're doing is they're attacking, because we have a majority pretty much in everything, they're taking on the state in terms of ballot initiatives. So we saw that with the recall. But one thing they're doing now is they're trying to pass this water initiative, which is called More Water Now. It sounds like it's a good idea. Again, they're going to be standing outside of grocery stores telling people, oh, sign on for more water. And who doesn't want more water when we're in a drought? But it's backed by alt-right, a bunch of alt-righters. And here's the information, and I can share that as well, because they're basically trying to get money in for private water projects that we don't need. And if the ballot initiative were to go through, they'd divert 2% of state funds to these water projects, and then they wouldn't be regulated by a lot of these commissions, which would include Poseidon, for example. They would be able to have their desal plant, destroy the environment, raise rates across Orange County, and then take away money from affordable housing all in one because of this ballot initiative. So we need to be careful about these like alt-right people and their attack on our water system here in California. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have time for. I don't want to take too much more time. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to me as well, and I'll drop my information. But yeah, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you so much, Alejandro. And there's going to be a presentation a little bit later on this FAW water initiative as well. So thank you for letting us know. Denora, I think there were other guest speakers as well that were with us.
Yeah, it just ended up being Alejandro for today, due to the short amount of time that we have on the agenda, and I want to make sure we get through all speakers. But yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Next up, we're gonna go to EV charging for all, an issue near and dear to my heart. I think about it every day that I have to walk 8 blocks to access the nearest charging facility to charge up my Volt as a resident of a multi-family existing construction building without EV charging infrastructure in place. Vanessa, please take it away. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I am trying to figure out, there it is. Can you see my slide?
Not yet.
Can you see it now?
We can. It's got a whole bunch of...
Does it have a whole bunch of stuff on it? Okay, so that didn't work. Sorry. Stand by. You should just be able to see just the slide. Let me try this again. Zoom is so fun. Share slide. Just the slide. Can you see just the slide?
We can.
Awesome. Okay, now I gotta go find my notes. Stand by. Aha, okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Vanessa Warhead. I co-direct the California statewide EV Charging Access for All Coalition. We're comprised of over 1,200 organizations and individuals. That includes nonprofits, labor unions, EJ groups, faith communities, companies, state and local elected officials, all of whom support the efforts we have been advocating since 2020 to strengthen the Cal Green building codes for EV infrastructure. We are united in demanding equity in access to EV charging. And I will get into context in just a moment, but as an overview, we are advocating for all housing units with parking to have plug and play EV ready access to power for charging, specifically for new construction for now. And note, we're not advocating for more parking. The world doesn't need more parking, but if a unit has parking, at least one of those parking spaces must be electrified. All electrified spaces should also be clearly labeled as such, and whenever possible, the parking space should be wired through the corresponding housing unit's electric meter. So here's some context. It's super clear that the EV revolution is underway. EV electric vehicles are rapidly taking over the automotive industry. That's just a fact. Here in California, the governor issued an executive order last year that all new vehicles sold in California by 2035 will be zero emissions. The question now is both where will we charge all those EVs and how will we ensure that all Californians get the cost, convenience, and health benefits of electrified transportation? Because we know right now, EV infrastructure in California is insufficient, and it's not serving the communities that would benefit the most from the economic and health benefits. So we need stronger state building codes, not just municipal reach codes, to ensure that new construction statewide includes EV infrastructure. And it needs to be included for everyone, not just single family homeowners. Cal Green Building Code has required EV infrastructure for 100% of single family housing since 2015, but most multifamily housing is still being built for fossil fuel cars. Same thing with workplace parking. That's not equitable. People are also working super hard to fix the multifamily housing problem, but the first step when you're in a hole is to stop digging. So let's stop making this problem worse. Also, from an equity standpoint, if you have ever lived in a rental, an apartment, or a condo, you will know that parking access and decision-making power for multifamily residents is very different than it is for single-family homeowners. Good EV policy must reflect that reality. Here's a classic story. Rebecca lives with her little kids in a rental apartment without access to power for charging. She had an EV, she works in sustainability, she loved it, but after 2 years struggling with public charging, she just went back to driving a gas car. She faced a long list of challenges, including convenience, personal safety concerns, and cost. She told us, as a renter, I'm not sure if I'll be living in this location in the future. Upgrading a property that isn't mine doesn't add up. I have the little kids under 10. Adding an extra hour or two to stop and charge is a deal breaker for our family. The kids will end up playing in parking spaces, which creates a safety risk. If Rebecca could have charged her car at home, even on a plain old 110 volt outlet, she'd still be driving an EV today. We know 85 to 95% of EV charging today is done at home because public charging is less convenient, less safe, and more expensive, and is likely to stay that way because public charging rates are unregulated. And it's inequitable to expect multifamily residents who are more likely to be low income and more likely to be people of color to pay the most for their charging. And we know without reliable access to power at home, even residents of brand new buildings won't make the switch to EVs. The cheapest time to install access to charging is during new construction. And it's also good workforce policy because that's the time it's most likely to be installed by highly skilled union labor, creating more family sustaining jobs. So the current state proposal isn't just inequitable, it's also actually more expensive because it's going to require expensive retrofits in what will essentially be brand new buildings. Bottom line, we shouldn't be building brand new homes that need expensive retrofits out of the gate. We've got plenty of multifamily housing to retrofit already. Stop digging the hole deeper. So as a recap, we are demanding all housing units with parking must have EV ready access. All electrified spaces should be clearly labeled, and whenever possible, they should be wired through the corresponding housing unit's electric meter. And to end, I'll just note that ensuring that this amount of charging is affordable, which it is, we recommend low power level 2, which is basically a 20 amp circuit, which is like half of a regular level 2. That will supply enough power overnight for over a 100-mile commute, which is over double the state's average. That's it. Thanks for the time. Oh, and I will put in the chat, we have a letter if you find it unacceptable that this is our current state policy. We have a letter to the governor that you can adapt and make your own and send to him because he hasn't yet been helping us, but we're hoping that he will. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. And what Vanessa and a broad coalition have been working on was the premise of a resolution that we crafted that passed earlier this year as one of the top 10 priority resolutions of the CDP. And we're now working to get this into the platform. Platform submissions are due tomorrow. We will post information on how to suggest changes to the platform in the chat. But without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce another fossil-free candidate, Shervin. If you can, let's make sure we highlight.
Can everyone hear me okay?
You can.
Great. Thank you, Chair Tregub and Chair Crosby, for the opportunity to speak here tonight. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shervin Azami. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a public health activist, community organizer, and immigrant running for U.S. Congress in my hometown, San Fernando Valley, California's 30th district. I'm very honored to be speaking with you all before the Environmental and Children's Caucus. And I can't think of a more urgent and intersectional issue as a new father than ensuring that we have a livable planet for the next 7 generations. What I firmly believe is that in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, poverty is inherently a policy choice and budgets inherently reflect our values. And I think to myself, now in this moment, coming out of a pandemic that has laid millions of people to lose their employer-sponsored healthcare coverage, their housing, their wages, their livelihoods, we are so far past incremental changes and tinkering around the edges. We need bold, structural, transformative, progressive reform to uplift and empower working families, dismantle white supremacy, and end corporate welfare. And that's what our campaign is all about. Talking a little bit about how budgets reflect priorities. We are seeing the US Congress now pass a $778 billion military industrial complex budget right after we technically ended the longest war in US history. And with the Pentagon having a larger carbon footprint than 140 industrialized nations combined, this is absolutely a climate justice issue. And on top of that, we see an infrastructure bill passed last week that further entrenches the fossil fuel industry with $25 billion in new fossil fuel subsidies for things like carbon capture and fossil hydrogen, middling policies that do not come anywhere close to matching the scale of this crisis and making sure that we are decarbonizing our economy while bringing renewable energies like wind and solar and others to scale. That's where the investments need to be. And we've all seen the IPCC report. We've all seen how in the starkest terms, now is the time to make those transformative investments, not in 2028, not in 2030, but now. And to see all these policies whittle away, not because the American people are against them, but because we are appeasing corporatists within our own ranks and failing to meet the scale and moment of this crisis with the necessary investments that are important. I'm proud to say that I'm the only candidate in this race, as Igor mentioned, to have taken the no fossil fuel money pledge. I'm the only candidate to have taken the no law enforcement money pledge. I'm the only candidate to not take any defense money, no health insurance money, no pharmaceutical money, no corporate money, period. I am running on single payer Medicare for all, housing is an inherent human right, climate justice, living wages, reproductive rights, union rights, divesting from the US war machine, and establishing a truly humanitarian immigration system. And all these things go back to having true, unapologetic, corporate-free progressives doing the work each and every single day to actually advocate for bold structural reforms. One thing I want to mention, just the other day, the incumbent in my race had a telephone town hall, and a constituent asked him, what can the Valley expect from the infrastructure bill? And I kid you not, his response was bemoaning the fact that there's no money in the infrastructure bill to add a lane to the 405. It is 2021, and we have legislators talking about highway expansion, not electrifying public transit, but highway expansion. That is not how we meet this crisis. That is the policies of 30, 40, 50 years ago that created the vacuum we are in now. So I hope to earn everyone's support. You can join our progressive movement at shervinforthevalley.com. Again, thank you so much to Chair Crosby and Chair Tragub for the opportunity to speak, and look forward to any questions or comments that folks have.
Thank
I
you
see
so much.
one question in the chat, just to address it really quickly. Running against Warhawk Brad Sherman.
Got it. Thank you. Sherman, thank you so much. We look forward to getting information in the chat for folks that would like to contribute to your campaign. Of course, just putting it on the record, the Environmental Caucus can't endorse separately from the party. However, we welcome any and all fossil-free candidates to speak before us tonight, and thank you so much for joining us. I will now hand this portion of the meeting over to Anne to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Igor. I wanted to introduce everyone to my friend Michael. He and I have known each other, I think 2019 is when we he first reached out to me because he was trying to get LAUSD to go completely solar. And he had a very ingenious plan. And so I was hoping that he could come and speak to us today, tell us a little bit more about the process that they went through and what some of the successes were, where they ran into issues along the way. I think it's a way for us to learn and duplicate and speed up what we're doing as far as making schools solar ready. Michael.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Anne. It was 2019, and thank you for inviting me to share our LAUSD story. If I may, I do want to start by acknowledging with respect and gratitude the Tongva, Chumash, and Kizh peoples on whose traditional territory I live and work. So you never know what one piece of civic engagement can lead to. In April of 2019, I was asked to attend a Los Angeles City Council committee hearing by Andy Schrader, the Director of Environmental Affairs, for Councilmember Paul Koretz. Councilmember Koretz was proposing the committee establish a citywide climate emergency mobilization department. During the open comment period, two Los Angeles chapter climate leaders, Sybil Azer and Kathy Schaefer, declared that they were there to seek support for a newly conceived initiative to transition the Los Angeles Unified School District to 100% clean renewable energy. Ironically, Councilmember Koretz's resolution did not pass, but what did happen was immediately after the hearing, another Councilmember Paul Krikorian, approached Sybil, Kathy, and me saying LAUSD's governance is independent of the city, but that he would like to support our LAUSD initiative, volunteering to assist us. A couple weeks later, we had a meeting with him and his staffers to discuss our nascent plan. Councilmember Krikorian guided us with some great ideas, offering to introduce us to one of the LAUSD board members, Scott Schmerelson. At the same time, we had organized to meet with a lower level staffer of the facilities division of LAUSD to get a sense of what kind of cooperation or resistance we would encounter if our initiative moved forward. Our successful meeting with board member Schmerelson led us to board member Jackie Goldberg and then to board member George McKenna. During our meeting with board member Goldberg's office, her chief of staff advised us that if we wanted our resolution to be more than aspirational, then we would have to come up with some viable, implementable options and solutions. As you know, most public school districts cannot afford to make the kind of upfront investment that will allow them to transition their energy to clean renewable sources like solar. LAUSD is the second largest school district in the country with approximately 700,000 students, 28,000 teachers, 1,100 schools across Los Angeles County. The district runs a budget deficit more years than not. Asking board members to appropriate funds to a massive solar project that would take money from the classroom, at least on a short-term basis, would be political suicide for these board members. We learned during our meeting with the Facilities Division that during 2008, with the help of a Los Angeles Department of Water and Power solar incentive program, the district installed solar on several schools, accounting for approximately 5% of their energy load. According to the Facilities Division, the reason LAUSD discontinued their solar installation program was because LADWP discontinued their solar incentive program. Referencing my original premise, you never know what one act of environmental activism can lead to. During a UCLA Sustainability Summit, I met one of the commissioners from the California Public Utility Commission. As a result of our conversation, she introduced me to the Chief Sustainability Officer of LADWP. After 3 attempts of contacting her, she finally responded by connecting me with LADWP's Solar Programs Manager, a gentleman named Arash Saidi. After a couple of attempts, as you all know, persistence is an important attribute in this work. Arash Saidi and I got on the phone. When I asked him why the incentive program that allowed LAUSD to begin producing approximately 5% of its energy needs in 2008 with solar had expired, he explained to me that there was another newer solar incentive program that could be a great opportunity for LAUSD called Feed-in Tariff, FIT, FIT. Simple definition of the Feed-in Tariff program: being a public utility, LADWP is required by the City of Los Angeles to increase its clean renewable energy portfolio. The FIT program allows LADWP to partner with private solar developers by purchasing the solar energy that these solar developers produce from their privately owned solar systems at 13.5 to 14.5 cents per kilowatt hour. That 13.5 to 14.5 cents per kilowatt hour is a much higher price than it costs these solar developers to produce the energy. Big win for solar developers. What these private solar developers don't have is the rooftop, carport, or real estate space in LA Basin to locate their solar installations. It's really easy to produce a lot of inexpensive solar energy in the Mojave Desert. The problem is we don't have the transmission lines to get that energy from the Mojave to our population centers. So what we need is production of solar energy in basin, in our population centers where the energy is being used. And this is where LAUSD came in. LAUSD has approximately 60 million square feet of rooftop space, only needing approximately 15 million square feet from solar installations that can then produce enough solar energy to meet their energy load. With all this available rooftop space, LAUSD can lease, I put that in quotations, the rooftop space to the solar developers who don't have the in-basin real estate rooftop space, carport space for those solar installations to live. The solar developer, remember, who is being paid 13.5 to 14.5 cents per kilowatt hour from LADWP, then pays LAUSD a portion of that payment, approximately 3 cents per kilowatt hour. With LAUSD, we're talking about hundreds of megawatt hours of energy. This can quickly add up. Not only do these solar programs not cost LAUSD a penny, as they don't own or operate or maintain them, that 3 cent dividend that they're receiving from the solar developer for leasing them use of their rooftop space can be used in the classroom to do what LAUSD should be doing, improving student outcomes. By the way, I didn't know any of this when we started this process. Any of us can learn. If you're thinking this is a win-win-win situation, you couldn't be more right. This research and discovery led us to be able to put together a resolution that allowed our 3 co-sponsoring board members the opportunity to support and promote our resolution. It allowed us to confidently meet with the other 4 board members to share our plan containing a viable, workable, implementable solution, thereby paving the way for their support as well. On a parallel track, Sybil and I were meeting with and bringing on board a very large and influential group of coalition partners throughout the traditional environmental and environmental justice communities, including Sierra Club Climate Parents, Pacoima Beautiful, Communities for a Better Environment, to name just a few. As there were several LAUSD teachers who were part of our core group, including trained climate leaders, Blossom Shores and Mabel Wong, we were able to secure the support of United Teachers of Los Angeles, UTLA, along with a very large group of LAUSD students, parents, and teachers. The major obstacle we encountered was with the facilities division of LAUSD. As with many large bureaucracies, there exists a strong force of inertia, and convincing the people who are charged with implementing any action plan that would be contained in the resolution was very challenging. We confronted their resistance with a cooperative attitude, hard research, and expert testimony. After 3 very long, difficult meetings with the facilities division and staffers from the various board members' offices, the research, the preparation we had done allowed us to prevail. Final step was packing the boardroom on the day of the vote, December 3rd, 2019. We reached out to our well-cultivated networks, resulting in approximately 170 supporters showing up to the board meeting, leaving our board members with no choice but to vote in support of our resolution, which they did unanimously. It was a moment of sheer joy as our group of students, teachers, parents, experts, and activists all stood and spoke out in favor of the resolution. The LAUSD voted unanimously to pass our clean energy resolution, committing to transition to 100% clean renewable energy, electricity by 2030, all other energy needs, including transportation, by 2040. This is a much more aggressive timeline than our city, county, or state. Almost 8 months after Sybil and Kathy declared their intention in an unrelated city council meeting, we met with the kind of success that is doing exactly what we had hoped for, creating ripples throughout the public school sector. Soon after the Los Angeles Community College District, the largest community college district in the country, passed their own resolution to transition to 100% clean renewable energy. And there are several other school districts in the process of doing the same as a result of the campaign that we launched within our Los Angeles chapter of the Climate Reality Project called the Green Schools Campaign. This campaign, led by students all over the US and the globe, are working on persuading their local school districts to make the same commitment to transition to 100% clean renewable energy, electricity by 2030, all other energy needs by 2040. There are so many people to thank without whom this could never have happened. Mostly, we are profoundly grateful to the hundreds of LAUSD students, teachers, and parents who stood up, raised their voices, and demanded that their schools make a commitment to transition to 100% clean renewable energy, thereby becoming a part of the solution and helping ensure their future includes a habitable planet Earth. This decision by the LAUSD School Board has inspired and empowered these young people in unimaginable ways, equipping them with the requisite hope, faith, ingenuity, and means to solve the existential threat that the climate crisis poses. Because you never know what one piece of civic engagement can lead to. Thank you all for listening. If you have any questions or need assistance with your own campaigns, I will drop my email into the chat. Feel free to reach out. Back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Michael. Now I'm sure everyone can realize why it was important for us to hear from Michael today. The work that he started along with a large coalition of people that were just persistent. There are so many times when we do this work that it can be overwhelming and disheartening, and you run into a brick wall. You have to just keep look for that alleyway that's next to that brick wall so that you can get what needs to get done. I think the most important thing about LAUSD is that the rest of California can look at it and say it can be done. Having been a school board trustee, we tried to get solar in place several times, and you end up with trustees who are elected who, have no ability to have a vision for how it can happen. You need to have those examples. And I think I really wanted to have Michael come here to not only say what the success was, but where they ran into roadblocks so that those of you who are doing this work right now can know where to go around those roadblocks so that you can move the next piece forward so that we can have solar across the state on our school campuses, because they have land, they have, because of the field deck, our schools are built to a very high building level building code so that they can very easily have solar, and they have large parking lots in other areas. And so, you know, I'm really supportive of this and hope that we can do more of it and have it just lead where we would like it to go next, which is across the state. So, Michael, I think we need to move on, and we have some.
And I just want to say quickly,
Yeah, sure.
The reason why I shared that very granular detail about, you know, the plan, the implementable plan that we put forward, was to say that I am not an energy expert. I knew nothing about any of this. We just dug in, we did some research and learned that there was a solution that we could apply, that we could offer to the facilities division. So when they said no, we said, yes, there is a possibility, there is a way to do this.
Absolutely. Sometimes all it takes is persistence. And I believe our next speaker is somebody else that's been working on this for a long time and has a great amount of expertise that we're really looking forward to hearing from. Igor, I'm going to hand it to you so you can do the introduction. But Michael, thank you so much for being willing to come and speak, and absolutely make sure you leave your information so if anyone wants to move forward that they can tap into your wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you so much. And I bid your permission. We have two really amazing speakers. One of them is on East Coast time and is about to talk to a staffer on the Hill about building back better and ensuring that the climate is a key part of that package. So just for a couple of minutes, if you would allow me to introduce my counterpart, but on a national scale, that she is the founding chair of the DNC Climate Crisis Council. And that's none other than Michelle Dietrich. Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me, Igor, and for allowing me to, I think, jump the queue here because I've got a 9:30 call I have to jump to. And Michael, that was inspiring to hear about your work. You all are so far ahead of my home state of Michigan, but we won't get into that particular cluster right now. The DNC Climate Council, I hope you'll, sign up for our email list at dncclimate.org or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. But we've been working hard along with many other organizations, and including some of the wonderful people I see on this call to ensure the strongest climate measures in the Build Back Better legislation possible. You all know that on Monday, the bipartisan infrastructure bill was signed by President Biden, and it's not a climate bill. It did have some climate provisions, climate related, or provisions that will especially, I think, help us to leverage the Build Back Better measures more strongly. So it did include $60 billion for the electrical grid, which is not enough, but it's a start. $7.5 billion for EV charging stations. I think RL's on this call. I know she took a cross-country trip recently in a Tesla. I have a Volt. She can, I'm sure, attest to the need for more EV charging stations. And a couple of other small things. But the Build Back Better legislation, which I am told is going to pass tonight, possibly around 11, but I'm knocking on wood as I say that because there have been so many delays with this legislation, but it is really exciting. And I'm going to say it does not solve the climate crisis. There are things in there that I would love personally to pull out. But there are a lot of really significant wins too. And there's 130 measures in Build Back Better, so I'm not going through all of them, not even all of the ones related to climate and environmental justice. I'll mention a few, and then I'll drop a link to an excellent fact sheet from Sierra Club, which really lists everything out. But I want to say, there is $600 billion in there for climate action. That more than doubles the rate of wind and solar expansion related to what Michael's talking about. It one thing that the Climate Council worked really hard was to get rid of fossil fuel subsidies. It does in the version that's going to pass in the House, and international fossil fuel subsidies. It does not end domestic fossil fuel subsidies. We'll be taking that fight forward, and lots of you will, I know too. There's lots of money to replace lead pipes, a big problem in my home state. Doesn't replace all of them. Between it and the BIF, the bipartisan bill, probably about half of them across the US, but that's a huge start. And it will reduce families over the average family's utility bills by about $500 a year and make electric vehicles much more affordable, especially union-built electrical vehicles, but all of them. So we really need full press, full court support for this to go out there as it passes from the House to the Senate, because the Senate will have the opportunity to amend it. And you know, we all know about the senator who is putting up roadblocks in the way. And there are some really key aspects of this that, you know, could get affected either through the amendment process or in some an intense thing that happens right at the end before passage called votorama. So Igor, can I share with you tomorrow, once we know it's passed, some social media that you might be able to share with people if they were inclined? That would be a huge help. Contact your senators. Thank the people in the House who supported this, all the Democrats, you know, hope. Certainly, I think all of your House reps are on board to vote for this. We really need to make sure that we're supporting them as well as continuing to push the Senate to the right thing. I have 2 minutes for questions, if there are any.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we actually just
move on.
Speakers, we are a little bit behind, but if you could share your contact info in the chat, I'm sure there'll be questions for you. Please sign up for this GNC Climate website and email list. I've been forwarding emails occasionally through our list, really good information that comes from it, but that's the best way to keep abreast of everything happening nationally, and would love to share out the hopefully good news that will happen around 11 p.m. tonight.
I am so excited. I'm just going to drop in the link to sign up with us. Thank you so much for letting me take some of your time. I'm so appreciative for all that you do, Igor, and all that RL did with this really kick-ass caucus. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us from thousands of miles away, at least hundreds of miles. It is now my pleasure to introduce someone who has been a climate justice champion her entire life. And if you sat through the special e-board meeting, you will know that she was one of our speakers in support of the CDP doing the right thing and formalizing the existing practice of not taking money from fossil fuel entities. So let's put our virtual hands together and welcome Aura Vasquez.
Thank you, Igor, so much. Hello, everyone. It's just so great to be among so many environmental, climate, all lovers of nature here. We could be doing 100 things, but we're here together, and I definitely feel the virtual solidarity. So thank you so much, Igor, for allowing me a few minutes to speak to Madam Chair, and also thank you so much for your leadership. I see I see so many people. I just will have like an hour to say hello to everyone and to just acknowledge the incredible work that you all have done as well. I'm Aura Vasquez, and for those of you that don't know me, I'm native of Colombia. I started my career at 11 years old in my own country, banning aerosols in those days where that was the cause of global warming. And that was a long time ago. And later I worked here at here in Los Angeles for the Sierra Club, where I was so pleased to hear Richard talk about the Feed and Tariff program, because this is like the one thing for us that love all that policy that is going to help us save our world and make our planet and our environment better. That program was actually born at my office when I was an organizer for the Sierra Club here for the national office. So it's exciting to see that it's solidifying. But I was the organizer that helped Los Angeles to divest from coal. So that was also part of the work that I did. And also I was the youngest and the first activist to be a commissioner for the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. So Richard, I feel you 100%. I'm so glad that you talked to Arash because he's great people. And I am now so excited to be part of the e-board and also be part of this caucus. So let's get to it. I want to talk to you guys about it. Okay, let's see. The Green New Deal for public schools. So this is an initiative that actually started in July 15th, and it was introduced by Representative Jamal Bowman, which really has the promise of regarding of zip code, regardless of where you live, regardless of what color your skin is, regardless of how much money you have, to make our schools resilient, sustainable, and beautiful places where we can reimagine education and reverse the effects of institutionalized racism. So this goes a little beyond, because it's not just money to put solar panels, it's not just money to retrofit buildings or to plant more trees, it's money to also rethink about how we can show our students more science and a healthy planet, and how they can potentially be part of this green energy revolution by also, being part of, a learning curriculum that can help them come to, that can help them get to this work in a real way. So what's going on with this, with the bill? So Representative Jamal Bowman from New York introduced this, and he had 32 co-sponsors, including some folks from California and the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA folks. Also some other teachers unions and other folks, because the promise of this bill is to invest $486 billion in green facilities, more resources for schools, access, because that's a huge problem in our schools right now, and also to make sure that we do the kind of community engagement that we need to see this work. So I wanted just to tell you guys that this is going on, and that as we push for a Build Back Better, that we hope that this also makes it there, because our schools and our teachers and our students deserve it. Now, I want to also talk to you guys about the Green New Deal for public schools at a local level. So here in Los Angeles, we have identified that we are very park poor. In fact, park access, park inequality is equal health inequalities, as you all know. 2 in 3 kids in Los Angeles do not live in a walking distance to a park or to open space. And this is specifically happens to me in my neighborhood, where my neighbors, my kids in my neighborhood have to put kiddie pools between cars on the streets to play. It was so painful to watch, and during COVID. So some of us got together, and specifically spearheaded by Ready to Help, which is a mutual aid community network that I'm very involved with and I helped start. And we started a campaign called Parks, and it stands for Playground Access for Reimagining Sustainability. Again, we're taking the approach of a wholesome approach of a child. It's not just trees. It's not just a swing. It's not just having a solar panel. We need to start educating our kids on how to be great environmental stewards as well. So what is it that we're asking? Something very simple. We just want to open playgrounds as parks. And where there are places where there are no access to parks, that we can identify those schools, beautify those playgrounds, and make them accessible for the community on the weekends and after the school periods are done. So, you know, in the evenings and in the afternoons. So, Michael, I totally share your sentiment. I know what it's like to deal with the LAUSD, district. We have been meeting with board members, and they want to give us the runaround. But this is the beauty of organizing and of working together. So I don't want to take a lot of time. I just wanted to keep you guys updated about this. So don't forget, the Green New Deal for public schools is happening. And also here in Los Angeles, we're asking for more parks access by opening playgrounds as parks. If you guys need more information, you can, of course, reach out to me. I'm going to put my information on the chat. The more the merrier. If you have wild ideas about how we can bring more park access, bring them to me. We are ready for you. Thank you so much for allowing me the time. And I don't think we have time for to answer questions, but feel free to put them in the chat and I try to answer them as much as I can. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Igor. Thank you, board. Thank you so much, guys, for letting me speak.
Thank you so
And I just want to, Igor, if I could just take a moment of personal privilege here and just say congratulations to Ara on her newly elected position as an executive board member of the Los Angeles chapter. So congratulations, Ara.
Woohoo! That's really exciting.
So exciting.
And you guys have a friend here, so anything related, if you want to connect with the Sierra Club, please, I'm here for you.
Yeah, we need to talk.
And lots of folks are asking for your digits. So please put your contact info in the chat. Thank you so much. And thank you for your patience. We are running a little bit behind, but we have just such an amazing caliber of speakers here with us. Next, it is absolutely my pleasure to introduce, speaking of the power of the youth, Youth versus Apocalypse, that has been doing some really incredible work, lots of good troublemaking on a number of issues, which the party has endorsed around as well. And one of those issues are around divestment from fossil fuels in spaces, including pension funds. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up Miriam of Fossil Free California and Youth versus Apocalypse.
Yeah, and actually Jossie is speaking first, so if you could spotlight her instead, and then Kevin's also speaking.
Great.
Giving you a heads up.
Perfect. Can you just give us the full name if you would, or can the speakers raise their hands and then we can find them?
Here, I'll raise my hand. There. All right. Okay. Hello, my name is Jessica Hlasky. I am 13 years old and I use she/her pronouns, and I am a part of the Earth Guardians Bay Area crew. Today I am here to talk to you about CalSTRS. CalSTRS is the California State Teachers Retirement System. CalSTRS is investing $6 billion into fossil fuels. The ironic part of all of this is that teachers spend their entire lives devoted to bettering their students' futures when their money is being invested in the exact opposite cause. CalSTRS claims that they are using the engagement strategy. This is where they invest in fossil fuel companies and try to get them to go green. You can't take the fossil fuels out of fossil fuel companies. That is like saying you want a paper factory to stop producing paper. It is also not good financially anymore. UC schools, Harvard, and many other places have all divested from fossil fuel companies, not because it is bad for the planet, but it is better for their money to invest in clean energy than it is to invest in fossil fuels. We, the youth, are going to be the ones to clean up the mess of climate change that previous generations left behind. As waters rise, the youth will rise too and fight for what we know in our hearts is right. I am terrified that my children will have their childhoods taken away because of climate change. I am terrified that they will not have clean air to breathe. I should not have to be here today. I should be playing and doing things that any normal 13-year-old would do. But instead, I am here asking you to support us in our mission to get CalSTRS and CalPERS to divest from fossil fuel companies. Please do and help us. Thank you for your time.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin G. Warner Hernandez. I am an environmental justice organizer, and I represent Youth versus Apocalypse in the Ohlone territory of Richmond, San Pablo, and Pinole. It's really great to be here and just to talk about why I'm interested and I'm supporting the CalSTRS divestment. And so I feel that CalSTRS is a prime example of environmental racism, and a prime example of environmental racism is inequity. It's a public health issue. That's why we're all here, focusing on social justice and achieving health equity for all our communities, if it's for the environment or it's, in other cases. I really want to just highlight that environmental racism is something that I've been trying to work on for so long, in my community, and just, working with Youth versus Apocalypse is, really important to me. But also, when I got into the CalSTRS campaign, it just showed that how inequalities really affect all of us. Really affects my community, affects taxpayers, my parents, my teachers, educators, and anyone. And so I just wanted to just say that, the reason why we're here is that we're asking you all to outlaw fossil fuel investments in the state, pensions for community health, and for it to take a step further to equity for all disadvantaged communities. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And to close out, my name is Miriam. I'm the coordinating director at Fossil Free California. And I really want to thank you all at the Democratic Party for passing a resolution already calling on the teachers' pension and the public employees' pension to divest from fossil fuels. It's a huge step forward, and yet there's a lot left to do. The pensions still have the argument that they're going to change fossil fuel companies to become that paper factory without paper. It's ironic. It doesn't make sense. It's not even a financially good decision. And I know every day I get up and I work alongside teachers and public employees who are passing resolutions in their own unions calling on the pensions. And so far the pensions have remained deaf, despite the fact there's been over 20 teachers unions who've passed resolutions, including 3 district unions that each have over 50,000 union members underneath them. And there's an additional 3 CalPERS unions that have passed resolutions. And CalPERS, I think, is just a startling example of unwillingness to pay attention to the impact of fossil fuels, that they have the responsibility to take and move out of fossil fuels. Because, sorry, I said that backwards. I fall off my script. But anyways, CalPERS has $400 billion in assets under management. 3 billion of those are in fossil fuels currently. And they argue that that's a good investment. We know that they're not the future. And it's time that they recognize that too, and that they divest, that they protect us, our communities, our safety, because there is no future in fossil fuels. I think it was really startling to see at the latest board meeting, the first one in person, the board members remained stoic as I told my story with asthma, because they didn't care, or at least they wouldn't show that they cared. And they continued to not want to divest, except one board member who stood up. So it's moving. We have 2 board members in CalSTRS, 1 in CalPERS, and we can make this change. Legislation will move us forward. So please join us in supporting divestment legislation for the pensions in 2022.
Thank you so much. Let's give a virtual round of applause to the youth. And someone posted it in the chat, when you speak. I would say more of us should listen, really. And I'm glad that the California Democratic Party has listened by reaffirming a 2015 resolution around this issue last year. Thank you so much again. And let's keep fighting. Please put in the chat how we can support you all, whatever you got going on, if you have any petitions, how to keep up with this campaign. It's so important.
There was a link in the chat. Also, you know, we saw from several people in the chat who are part of PERS and STRS that they want out of it as well. So we're with you, we support you. And I'm so happy to see the youth speak, because you make a difference.
Thank you. I'm now going to introduce Officer Jose Trinidad Castañeda to introduce our next speaker. Jose, you are here. Well, Jose may have stepped away, but we do have joining us none other than Senator Dave Min. He has been a champion for the climate. And the reason we invited him here is all of you have heard, of course, about horrific oil spill event that happened off the coast in Orange County. And Senator Min is working on some very innovative solutions to make sure something like that never happens again, never in our lifetimes. So Senator, it's such an honor that you're here with us today, and thank you for joining, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Igor, and it's such an honor to be here. And this is, I think, my first time appearing before you all as an elected, so very excited. I'm a baby senator. I'm just finishing my first year here, but proud to be a member of the Climate Caucus, proud to be a friend of R.L. Miller, you know, look forward to your leadership, Igor, and proud to have taken the fossil fuel pledge very early on. So I don't take a single dime from fossil fuel companies, including utilities, which, as I've learned, is somewhat rare among my colleagues. I represent the heart of Orange County, at least I do, for another month and a half, and then we'll see what happens with the redistricting. But my district, Senate District 37, includes my home city of Irvine, as well as the coastal cities of Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, and Laguna Beach. And so, of course, those were the cities that were impacted the most by the recent Huntington Beach oil spill. Now, I'm not someone who had actually thought a lot about offshore drilling. You know, I'd looked, you know, you know, for the record, I think the climate crisis that we're facing is by far the most important issue of our lifetimes. And it's an honor to follow the young folks that spoke earlier, because you are the future and we need to act. And I think for those of you who might have been following my campaign, I know that's not a lot. You heard the mantra over and over. We quoted a ancient Greek quote, a civilization is great when its elders plant trees whose shade they know they will never sit in. And that idea of investing in our future is something that our society has really gotten away from. And we have to get back to it, because really the future of our civilization is at stake. You know, I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And I am petrified about what the future holds for them. But at the same time, you know, really had not explored the contours of offshore drilling until this oil spill happened back at the beginning of October. And, you know, I will say we avoided the worst of it. It was still a pretty terrible disaster. I think we had hundreds of birds that were killed. The beaches were closed for a week, and we still don't know the long-term impacts. But because of a confluence of events, it was expected when we first heard about it to be as bad as Refugio back in 2015 off the coast of Santa Barbara. And it ended up being not nearly as bad environmentally as far as the impacts on our economy or otherwise. But that got me thinking, why do we have offshore oil drilling in California? We have a $44 billion coastal economy. We are at a point in time where the aging infrastructure of our offshore rigs threatens our coast every few years. You know, I, as I said, believe that the climate crisis is the most important issue we're facing. But I tell my Republican friends, I tell climate deniers in my district, and believe me, in Orange County, we've got quite a few of them. You know, even if you don't believe in what I believe in, this doesn't make any sense. From a pure economics perspective, this is nuts that we allow offshore drilling. Now, the problem is that we have these leases that go back to the 1960s and 70s, and they presumptively require that we continue to allow for more permits. And so what are we going to do about that? Well, what we're looking to do is to introduce legislation in January that will end all offshore leases under an eminent domain theory. We're going to pay the oil companies that are remaining what those offshore rigs are worth. But here's the thing, and anyone who's studied even a little bit these offshore rigs knows at this point, many of them are upside down. That is to say that the cost of decommissioning these rigs is massive, and the expected oil revenues going forward is far less than massive. So we are going to look to decommissioning these rigs. We're going to pay them their just compensation, which we expect will be close to zero. And we think we can get offshore oil drilling in state waters off the coast of California ended permanently. Not only moratoriums on future drilling, but drilling under existing leases. And that's the key, because every single oil spill that we've had in California in the last 40 years has come under an existing lease. Moratoriums are great, but they're not going to solve the problem. We have to end all oil drilling, current and future oil drilling. And the optimistic news for us is that there's only 3 platforms left that are in California state waters that are not not decommissioned right now. And 2 of those are being operated by a Texas company, D Corp, that does not use unionized employees. The California company, CRC, that operates the 3rd rig, I had a meeting with them, and they told me they make only $15 to $20 million a year off of their rig. We can afford that, and so we think we can end this right now. We've been in, pretty intense discussions with stakeholders, including CLCV, Center for Biological Diversity, NRDC, Sierra Club, and others who are helping us draft this bill, but also engaging with the trades and WISPA, because at the end of the day, we're looking to try to find a solution that ends oil drilling now and is not prolonged in litigation for decades and decades. So we think we've got a pathway. We look forward to unveiling it in January. We ask for your support, but we got to end oil drilling now. We've got to do it in state waters first and set an example for the federal government to follow. And so that's really our goal right now. And I will tell you that my colleagues in the Senate are 100% behind our efforts. We've been in long talks with the Pro Tem and her staff, and we really do think we have a pathway to ending offshore drilling in state waters.
Senator Min, thank you so much. I'm sorry, Igor, I just want to jump in and let you know I'm down in Southern California in the San Diego area, and we saw the effects of that spill. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for doing that work for all the individuals who every summer like to have their kids out in the water and enjoying those beaches, and to see those kinds of impacts on the environment is heartbreaking. So thank you so much for your hard work.
The coasts are, we all know in California, coasts are who we are, and we have the economic impact, but there's also really the cultural and emotional identity that we have with our beaches. And I will tell you, Huntington Beach has got a lot of Trump crazy, I don't want to say crazy folks, but those same folks love their beaches. And I think this is a bipartisan issue And I hope that we will be able to overcome the opposition that we're going to see, frankly, from certain vested interests. There are people that have told me they will oppose any effort whatsoever that reduces fossil fuels even a little bit. And we've seen this in other dynamics. We know that that's coming, but we hope that the popular support for this bill is going to be so overwhelming that we're going to be able to operate from a position of strength. But thank you guys for all you do. It's really exciting to see you. Exciting to be among my fellow environmentalists, and honestly, can't wait to be doing this in person. Hopefully next year, and look forward to seeing y'all then.
Thank you so much, Senator. We're glad that this is the first time you've joined us. I promise you.
As an elected, I've been here as a candidate many times, as you know. But
we would love to have you before us again, and hopefully when we can all meet in person. Thank you so much. I also just wanted to see if we can give a virtual round of applause to our amazing team of interpreters. They unfortunately have to leave in a few minutes just because we have such a jam-packed agenda, and they were scheduled for a certain amount of time, but they're amazing, and please join me in giving them a warm round of applause on Zoom. Thank you. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce Jonas, our next speaker. And Jonas joins us with a lot of experience on water policy. He has advised a previous Democratic governor, at least one, and currently serves as the water policy advisor with the Planning and Conservation League. So if you were here before, you've heard about this very scary possible ballot measure, and he is going to break down what this means, and we're hoping that we can stop this effort in its tracks. So Jonas, thank you for being with us tonight.
Well, hello everybody, and thank you for the work you're doing. I feel like I'm sort of not in the best position. I've heard all of you people, including some of the youngest people, leading these very positive campaigns, solar and getting oil, keeping it in the ground and so forth. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to fight the good fight still. And this is one of those cases. And I'm sorry to bring it to you, but it is necessary. So this month, Devin Nunes, the same Devin Nunes, and his allies began gathering signatures to put the mislabeled More Water Now initiative on next November's ballot. This isn't me, this is the nonpartisan legislative analyst who said that this would take over 100 billion, this is in California, not Washington, over $100 billion away from literally every other state priority. From public health to education, to affordable housing, to climate change, and so forth. Project descriptions would be made by unelected political appointees with absolutely no legislative oversight. They wrote this initiative as a constitutional amendment, not just changing the law, changing this state constitution. But that means that our elected representatives could never correct this special interest, multi-billion-dollar money grab. And as they say on television, but wait, there is more. The water scam undermines existing environmental reviews and does not require projects to meet any water conservation criteria. It would use our taxpayer money to rush approval of projects that have been opposed by communities, Native American tribes, and environmentalists for decades, things that many of you have been fighting. This would give them the green light. It even prohibits anything more than 20% of the billions of dollars taken from other programs. They were spending any more than 20% on water use efficiency projects. That would ensure that the most wasteful, habitat destroying projects would get the lion's share of this $100 billion plus. I've been doing this for almost 50 years. This is the most undemocratic, anti-environmental, anti-progressive initiative I've ever seen. As you might guess, I'm not in favor of it. We are preparing a sample resolution for central committees to adopt. Stay tuned for that. Early opposition from all quarters is needed. We know we might be going into another dry year. Anything that says more water is going to have an immediate favorable reaction. We, that's all of us, and others are going to need to combat that. Our website will be up soon, and it will include a section where individuals and organizations can be added to indicate your opposition. Here's where you can get more information or schedule a speaker for your group or organization, or get emails. And that's by contacting our point person on this. You'll see it in the chat. It's Donald at nextgeneration.org. So thank you for your time. I hope we can get back now on to more positive subjects, realizing that, yes, we're still going to have to fight these battles. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonas. And yes, we, as Art has mentioned, there's already a ground campaign to get bad Republicans out of our state and get the interests of the people back. Next time.
Tomorrow, Igor will be walking tomorrow, on Sunday. I'm sorry. Just want to put it in there now that you said it. Sorry.
Oh, wonderful. Art, if you can put that in the chat. I bet there are some folks in the Central Valley that would love to join you for that. Thank you so much for being here, Jonas. I'm now going to recognize our Southern California Vice Chair to introduce our next speaker. Andrew?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, okay. Hello, everyone. I am now introducing someone that is very well known and respected in LA, and I hope she's still on the call to tell us about what's going on at Aliso Canyon, an update there. But Lorraine Lundquist, and I hope I get this bio right, is a CSUN professor, environmental scientist, and LA City Commissioner. I hope I got that all right. But Lorraine, if you're here, hopefully you can give us an update on all the very interesting things that have happened over with Aliso Canyon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the introduction, Andrew, and thank you to everyone for having me come and speak today. I'm so grateful to be here amongst so many amazing speakers and amazing attendees, and especially grateful to the youth who have spoken today. And I work at CSUN. We are working hard to divest CSUN and the CSU system from fossil fuels. But I'm here today to talk with you about Aliso Canyon, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So for those of you who don't know, Aliso Canyon gas storage facility had a major gas blowout. You probably remember, believe it or not, it's been 6 years since this facility had a well failure that caused 109,000 tons of natural gas to be released into the atmosphere and 8,000 households to be displaced from their homes for 7 months. And back then we had first Governor Jerry Brown in 2017 called for the facility to be closed down within 10 years. And then Governor Newsom actually amplified and wanted to speed up that pledge and said, announced that he wanted a shorter path to closure, do it faster than 10 years. And that's what he said in 2019. But unfortunately, that is not at all what's been happening in practice on the ground. In fact, 2 weeks ago, the California Public Utilities Commission voted to boost the storage capacity, basically open up Aliso Canyon even more than it has been used for the past 6 years. They voted to increase the capacity to 60%. And we had just today, this picture is actually from today, from our amazing activists and community leaders who traveled to Sacramento to protest this decision outside of Governor Newsom's office and asked the governor to fulfill his promise to shut down the facility earlier than 10 years from 2017. So we are going in the opposite direction, increasing the storage capacity at the facility. And I just want to remind everyone that SoCalGas has been doing a lot of really questionable things in order to get a ruling like this. So the reason the Public Utilities Commission cited for increasing the storage, the capacity that Aliso Canyon is filled is because of costs. They said it's been costing ratepayers too much in terms of their natural gas costs. But unfortunately, the costs that they cited, they didn't decouple the effects of having Aliso Canyon partially shut down from the fact that SoCalGas has had multiple pipeline closures for several years. That have been affecting the cost of gas. And a number of community members feel that SoCalGas has intentionally been shutting down pipelines and not repairing pipelines in order to mess with the costs, in order to argue that we need greater capacity in Aliso Canyon. And they did not try to do a separate analysis of the effect of those pipeline closures on cost. And I just want to also remind people that this is the company, SoCalGas, that has been called a threat to public safety and has been called out in official reports for behaving irresponsibly to public safety. They were fined. We know for sure that they falsified 42 years of reports saying that there were subsurface safety valves on the wells that the well that failed. And if there had been, they would have been able to just shut off the blowout instantly, but there still remain no subsurface safety valves on the wells at Aliso Canyon. The root cause analysis that was performed found that SoCalGas ignored 60 leaks and 99 casing failures before this disaster that should have told them that there was corrosion and that there was a problem, and should have indicated that they needed to fix things before anything blew. And then furthermore, there was a seismic analysis showing that multiple wells could blow if there was an earthquake rather than just the one that blew 6 years ago. So in case folks don't know, SoCalGas has also been using ratepayer money to create front groups and pay people to give public comment. A number of public commenters have been interviewed in the news saying that they didn't realize that they were being paid by a fossil fuel company. They thought they were coming out to make environmentally friendly comments. So they've been funding these front groups to do various things, to argue for Aliso Canyon to be kept open and to argue against natural gas bans for new construction in various cities. And unfortunately, they seem to be using our hard-earned ratepayer dollars to be pursuing those activities, and that investigation is still ongoing, but they have admitted to funding those front groups. So what I am asking you today, and what the activists in Sacramento were asking today, is to please call Governor Newsom's office and ask for the Aliso Canyon storage facility to be shut down. The California Public Utilities Commission and the California Energy Commission are all appointees of the governor, and the governor has stated that it's his intention to shut the facility down. So we need to put pressure on him to actually follow through with that promise and shift us over away from fossil fuels into our clean energy future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for fighting the good fight, Lorraine. Please put, yes, I'm already seeing contact info for the governor. If there's anything else you'd like to add in the chat, please do that.
Will do.
And to continue with the theme of the CPUC, on the cusp of making some very consequential decisions, which could go the right way or the very, very materially wrong way. I would now like to introduce Dave Rosenfeld from Solar Rights or Save California Solar. Sorry, after all these months, I figure I would know which organization.
Thank you, Igor. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
All right, excellent. I love coming to this group. It's my second time. It's like home team, Enviros, you know, just fighting a good fight. And thanks, Lorraine, for everything you guys do at Food and Water Watch. Love you guys. Just badasses. Okay, so first thing, I'm going to be quick, but I did want to just drop, you know, just listening to Senator Min reminded me that of a fun fact. I just put in the chat a quick little drone shot of an action we did right off the coast of Huntington Beach 2 weeks ago, which was what I'm going to tell you and what we're trying to tell the governor is basically an SOS message to Governor Newsom to save rooftop solar. So fun fact is that just 4 rooftop solar systems, 4 over their lifetime, produce enough energy, the same amount of energy that was in those barrels of oil that spilled off the coast. Another way to look at it is every hour on average, California's 1.2 million solar systems, every hour produces the same amount of energy as the barrels of oil that spilled off the coast. What are we doing? Like we have like right here at our fingertips, we could be doing the transition. And this is really where the Green New Deal gets operationalized. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, switching very aggressively and doing it in a way that has that triple bottom line where we're not only helping the planet, but we're helping people. You know, so as we transition, we're also giving people a tool to control their energy bills, become more self-sufficient, to protect themselves from blackouts. You know, it's like all that stuff rolled up into one, just putting the working class people right at the center of the transition. This is where it's either going to happen or it's not going to happen. And the utilities and their coalition have put a very, very real set of proposals on the table in front of the CPUC that would make rooftop solar the way it was 15 years ago, which is that the only people who could get it would be if you're rich, if you're technical, or you're super committed. And that would be very, very bad. The specifics of the proposals vary, but the centerpiece of all of them is to penalize people just for putting solar panels on their rooftop. They would have to pay a fee of somewhere between $30 and $91 a month, just for putting solar panels on your rooftop. And then on top of that, all of the proposals that are hostile to rooftop solar would shrink down the credit that people get for sharing their extra solar energy with the grid. It would shrink that credit down by 80%. And this would effectively double the cost of rooftop solar, put it out of the hands of the middle and working class, just as it's taking off. And that would basically end rooftop solar. This is a terrible idea. The utilities and their coalition justify it. They're not dumb, so they justify it by spinning this mistruth, this lie that rooftop solar is responsible for increasing electricity costs. It's nonsense. We have shown over and over again how it's nonsense. If people want to know more how it's nonsense, please contact me. We have documented this very, very closely. The opposite is true. Rooftop solar reduces the cost of the electricity grid to the benefit of all ratepayers, whether or not they have solar, on top of all the other benefits. This is a win-win-win for equity. So please come see me if you have any questions about that whatsoever. We want to leave no one behind on this question so that we can be 100% confident that the drive to increase rooftop solar is an absolute triple bottom line winner for everything that we're trying to do. So the update is as follows. The CPUC is going to make a final decision early next year, TBA, we think sometime early January or February. They are going to release a proposed decision, not a final one, but a proposed one. We believe now, all this subject to change, would be December 13th. So that's kind of the window that we're working with on the final thing. The governor has not yet weighed in, although it is still the CPUC's final call. Of course, the governor will have something to say, one would think, on an issue that is so central to the things that he stands for: the clean energy transition, electrification, energy bills, blackouts. And so we absolutely need our leader to weigh in. A couple of things are going on. Number one, just yesterday, we crossed the 100,000 mark. 100,000 people have now submitted a public comment to the governor and the CPUC on this issue. And then I don't exactly know if we've crossed 500, but we're pretty darn close, thanks to folks like you, of about 500 nonprofit organizations and community leaders have aligned with the Save California Solar Coalition. This week, the theme has been schools. The Carlsbad Unified School District just last night voted on a resolution, and that's on the heels of like Visalia and Golden Valley. Some of the poorest school districts in the country, in the state, are signing on because they see this as a path to be able to use their scarce budgets to lower their energy bills and plow that money back into the classroom to help the kids where we need it the most. So that's been a real theme this week. So that's great. What you can do is, I think probably many of you have already submitted your public comment. If you haven't, you can go to savecaliforniasolar.org/sign petition. Perhaps somebody could put that in the chat, and if not, I will do it. And if you've already done it, please share the heck out of it. There's no reason why we need to stop at 100,000. We really just do need this thing to catch fire in ways beyond what we're doing right now. So that's number one. Two is, if you're in Sacramento on the 8th of December, come join us in the morning at 10 a.m. We are going to hand deliver these public comments to Governor Newsom. And before that, we're going to do a really fun action that will involve a 30-foot high Monopoly man that represents the utility profit grab, plus some cool other fun, very visual things to do. And then we're going to walk it on in, and that'll be great. If you're not in Sacramento, we will have numerous ways with which you can amplify that message. And then please just stay tuned. Then obviously we will deliver the public comments. We will sit and wait. We will see what the proposed decision looks like, and then we will get an analysis out to all of you and the rest of the folks in this campaign about what the next steps are going to be. But just be prepared for a fun ride. This is an important existential kind of issue for one of the very key things, not the only thing, but one of the key things we need to do to avert climate change. And I'm really happy to be doing this work with you.
Dave, thank you so much. Please take a look at the chat. Thanks to you all. We've had so many delegates, hundreds of delegates, sign on to a petition that says, let's keep California moving in the right direction, which is the left direction, at the time that the Biden administration has declared that we need to double the amount of solar by 2025 and double it again by 2030. Please sign the petition. If you are a delegate, please sign the petition for organizations and delegates. If you have an organization, it's not too late to sign on to it, but it might be too late in 3 weeks. And the last thing I wanted to mention, and this is why the Marin Clean Energy meeting Zoom link is there. Right now, as we speak, there are probably massive amounts of public comments going on, getting a community choice aggregator that is supposed to be a cleaner, leaner, more affordable alternative to PG&E to make sure that a letter of support for net energy metering ends up on their agenda. So I will totally understand if after this meeting you will sign on to make public comment there. There's a request to receive a PUC link. Dave, maybe you can just post your contact info in the chat. Sign up for the Save Solar California listserv so that you can get weekly updates from Dave, which includes information like what will probably be the link to the next PUC meeting. So thank you so much. I am going to turn this meeting over to my counterpart, Chair Ann Crosby, to talk about some other things. And I understand that we may have some guest speakers as well.
Thank you. I just want to give everyone just a very brief update on instruction in schools on climate literacy. There are a lot of school districts across the state who are working on this, and I'm going to add some of the information I can share with you on different resolutions that have come across school districts so that if your district is not moving forward, you can certainly get in touch with them and let them know that this is the way the state is moving, the next generation science standards. So there's a lot of curriculum that's embedded in there if your school district has adopted NGSS, but school districts across the state are going above and beyond. Unfortunately, there are groups that have cottoned on to the fact that we're actually educating children, and they're putting forward some very bad curriculum and curriculum that's actually inaccurate. So school districts need to be careful, but there are a lot of resources available. So I'll go ahead and put that Fremont Unified School District, the district that I was with, Berkeley, Oakland, Piedmont. There's a lot of different districts that have done this, and this is one way they do it. And a lot of times it's actually led by the students themselves who come forward as a group at the school board meeting and say, this is what we want, this is what we need, this is what we deserve, given what you're leaving us in this planet. And so I encourage you to go to your own school districts and make sure that they are also doing what they can for climate literacy. I'll add the link. I think that's all I have right now.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I'm now going to call on the hardest working member of our caucus, our Secretary Mo Hernandez, and he has a very important issue to lift up going on in the Central Valley. So Mo, you have the floor.
Yes, hello. Hopefully you guys can see me and hear me. I'll be really quick and brief. As probably most of you guys on the call are aware of SB 1383, a very noble legislation that will, require thoughtful composting, disposing of the waste, right? What we eat day by day. The thing is, here in the Central Valley, I've come across some issues. I run and operate a small business where we do create a lot of e-waste. We run across problems with the landlord requesting for e-bin waste. We share them with other neighbors, and they have they have relegated us to just figure it out on our own. So seeing that there's not much support from the landlords and not much knowledge of it coming from the city or the county, I'm basically like have put myself here in Sanger, where I live, as someone who's gone to small businesses and let them know about this coming legislation and how they can better dispose of their waste. I'm gonna put my email on there because I'm really asking for help on how to create a good compost program that could be then taught or given to small businesses. There's a lot of Latino small businesses out here, so there's the language gap. I do know, I do speak Spanish, so I communicate that with them. I've made inroads with some council members here where I live, and hoping to have a community garden where that could be an option for folks to dispose of their waste. What I do sometimes when I collect the e-waste from the business and travel to Fresno, where there is a couple community gardens there present, and they're more than happy to take that waste from us. Just that, of course, that's like cost of time and travel and all that stuff. But yeah, I just want to say, like in the Valley, the word mandate always has a bad connotation, regardless of how noble the act is. So I believe that's going to be the education, the good modeling, where the business where that I run and operate. I'm hoping to create it, have it like a model that can then be mimicked by other businesses here. So I'm gonna put my email on the chat, and anybody that wishes to reach out to me can. I'll leave my email and my phone number. And thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mo. Next, I'm going to call once again on my much more talented predecessor, who will tell us about how we can shape the CDP platform. Madam Immediate Past Chair Ariel Miller, you are recognized.
So, most important thing that you all need to know, folks, is that I'm no longer the person stressing out, trying to keep the trains running on time, wondering where the hell my next speaker is, in an utter state of panic. Instead, I get to drink. In all semi-seriousness, I'm half paying attention to this meeting and half paying attention to the inane Kevin McCarthy speech right now. He doesn't seem to understand that the House of Representatives does not have a filibuster, which makes sense because I've heard from many, many Capitol Hill sources that he is actually not to otne ute itre. He's actually one of the dimmest bulbs in the House, and he's trying to filibuster Build Back Better. So I will break in a loud cheers and applause when we do pass Build Back Better, but for right now, he's going on and on. Okay, so having said all that, the CDP platform, Energy and Environment Plank, I tossed it out in 2020 and wrote a new one, complete new one, started from scratch. And I want to say that this was very much a collaborative work. And I had help from a lot of people. This time around, we're trying to do the same thing. Platform amendments are due tomorrow at 5 p.m. Okay, tomorrow at 5 p.m. Somebody more sober than me, please drop a link in the chat to submit platform amendments. I've been trying to create a sense of the environmental caucus. Several amendments. I'm going to drop a link to what I've drafted in the chat. This was after a meeting that we had. There's a couple of different versions of this document floating around, but this is more or less the latest one. Everybody who wants to, you have commenting privileges, you don't have editing privileges, and this, don't take this personally. This is just because when you have too many editors, it gets really messy. The one thing that what I did was I tried to write the clean transportation subplank. I tried to write a building electrification subplank. I don't think that the building electrification is as good as it could be. Vanessa Warheit, are you still here? A few others, are you still here? And conservation subplank 30. I wanted to basically get the 30 by 30 concept in, but I'm hoping that some of the conservation folks, Marcia Hanscom, are you still here? Can save my butt. And I realized after I wrote this that I still need to write something regarding hydrogen, regarding blue and gray hydrogen and carbon capture and storage, because I see a lot of really alarming things coming out of the federal bill. For those who haven't been paying a lot of attention to the details, we generally know that BIF, the infrastructure bill, is not a climate bill, and Build Back Better is the climate bill. BIF has some good things in it, notably electric vehicle charging infrastructure. It also has a shitload, a real lot of really bad things. Money for CCS, money for this thing called direct air capture, money for all sorts of plans to keep Exxon in business, drilling and fracking, and then putting some sort of magic damper on the top of the coal smokestacks so that all the emissions get captured. Yeah, and if you believe in that, I'd like to introduce you to the magic pill that will also keep you rich and thin forever while you keep on eating chocolate cake. What I have here is rough. You should be able to make everybody, you should be able to make comments on it. If you haven't been able to make comments, holler at me, and holler at me fast, because my job tomorrow morning is going to be making surgical amendments, which is to say, strike line 3, paragraphs or words 1, 2, and 3 in the comma and replace it with, you know, and it's just about as much fun as watching Kevin McCarthy speak. So if you sincerely want to help, please, people, I need help. I need to stop drinking. I have had way too much fun tonight. I am probably going longer than 3 minutes, but in all seriousness, the platform should matter to California Democrats. It states what we stand for. It should be both an inspiring and a unifying document. So if you are in San Francisco, I want you to read this and think for a moment how this sounds if you are living in Ridgecrest, in San Bernardino County, rural sprawl, not much there. It's on the road to Death Valley. It's got a major military presence. Apartment units are $400 and they're begging people to move in. If you are in Fresno, imagine what this looks like if you are from Mendocino. If you are from Los Angeles, imagine how this sounds if you are from Siskiyou. You know, put yourselves in the shoes of our fellow Democrats across the state, and make sure that it makes sense to all of us. I can't get everybody's things in there. We had a meeting Monday night and a lot of people had a lot of really smart ideas. The most I could do in some cases was take a paragraph and turn it into a phrase. I'm sorry for that, but I sort of know what kind of specificity they're looking for in the platform, which is to say not very much, and how much I can get through the platform committee, which is to say a lot less than I'd like. So everybody please take a look at the link that I've dropped into chat. I will drop it in one more time. And again, if you aren't happy with what I'm saying and you want to submit your own, Igor has dropped some links in the chat and you can submit your own amendments as well, but I am going to be submitting this on behalf of the Environmental Caucus. Thank you. Back to drinking.
Oh, thank you so much, Ariel. And yes, thank you for doing all the heavy lifting with the platform, because that just means I don't have to tear my hair out at 4:59 p.m. tomorrow dealing with one more thing. Thank you also to, there were many volunteers here who volunteered to take a crack at the submissions. Please feel free to go through them, make suggestions in suggest mode. Thank you so much. It's now our joint pleasure, Ann and I's joint pleasure, to introduce Senator Wiener from the great city of San Francisco, who has been fighting on behalf of all of us around the state. The senator has joined us to give us an update on what has been going on and what kind of fights we need to brace ourselves for in the coming legislative cycle.
Great. Thank you, Igor. Thank you, Ann, and thank you, RL. I was worried when RL stepped down as chair of the caucus that I'm like, oh my God, is she going to go away? What is she going to do? But she's clearly still here and still in the family intensively. And of course, knowing RL, we should have known that she would never go very far. So we love you, RL, and thank you for everything you do. We have a lot going on, and I'm really glad that these two caucuses are together, because it is so, you know, given that our climate fight is about our kids and our grandkids and whether they're going to have a planet that's habitable and where they can be healthy and successful. That's what it's about. And so it's a perfect combination. So we have a lot going on. You know, in terms of climate, this past year was not the best year ever in the legislature. I'll be a little mild in how I phrase it. We had a lot of good bills go down or get delayed. The dynamic in the legislature is just not the greatest right now, and we have to turn that around. I think there's a lot of energy to turn that around. And over the summer, we had a group of a number of senators who started, organizing and working together to make sure we stay on track, and there are assembly members involved too. And so I think we're going to see a much more organized effort by legislators next year to move some strong climate action bills. And I can never predict any result in the legislature, even for the easiest bill, let alone hard ones. But I feel better going into next year than I did going into this year. In terms of some of the things that I'm working on, keep an eye on Senate Bill 260, which I introduced this year. It's now it was a 2-year bill, so we're going to try to finalize it in the Senate in January. It's co-sponsored by CLCV, I guess now called California Environmental Voters, and Sunrise and Carbon Accountable. And what it does is it requires large corporations who do business in California to disclose their entire carbon footprint. So to stop greenwashing, and includes all of their activities, including their supply chains, which is giving them a lot of anxiety and indigestion, so to speak. But we need to make sure that companies are not greenwashing themselves by contracting out their carbon emissions, and they have to disclose everything. It would be by far the most aggressive law in the country on these disclosures, and I think it'll put a lot of pressure on corporate America to reduce its carbon footprint significantly, because it will be embarrassing for them to be categorized as a high carbon footprint. And the good thing is there are some large corporations that you would probably be surprised to hear about that have at least privately signaled that they like the bill. And we're hoping that we can get a number of them to actually come out publicly in favor, because of course the Chamber of Commerce and other business associations are reflexively opposing it. So it's a good bill. I think it'll be impactful, and we're going to try really hard to get it passed next year. We're also going to resuscitate our automated solar permitting bill, which is sort of the trend to make it easier for people to put solar and energy storage on their rooftop or other small systems. We don't require an in-person inspection every time you put a dishwasher in, or a new laundry machine, and we should not automatically require the whole kit and caboodle inspection unless there's a need to do it for these simple solar and storage systems. And then in our never-ending quest to enhance public transportation and complete streets and safe streets, which is both an environmental issue and absolutely a children's issue. There are far too many kids in the state who do not have a safe way to walk to school, even if the school is like a block away, because they have to cross the street that doesn't have crosswalks or doesn't have sidewalks on it. And we tried to force Caltrans a few years ago to start taking this into account when it redoes its state highways that are really city streets. And a lot of small towns, their main street is a state highway, and you can't cross the street safely. So we're going to keep doing that work and trying to reauthorize Senate Bill 288, which is legislation to make it easier and faster to put in bike and pedestrian improvements, and bus rapid transit and light rail improvements on existing right-of-way. Because if we're going to meet our climate goals, transforming our transportation system to make it more sustainable is a critical part of that. We also, mental health is a huge priority for me every year, and we've been able to pass some aggressive bills to force the insurance companies to cover a broader spectrum of mental health and addiction treatments. One of the things I'm very proud of this year is in the budget, we put $4 billion for youth mental health. I did a bill a few years ago to try to dedicate more resources to our young people. We know that mental health issues overwhelmingly manifest sometime between the age of 14 and 24. And yet we devote remarkably few resources to our high school and college age kids. And we know that if we can get to someone and get them into treatment immediately after initial symptoms start and before they have a break, we have a much higher chance of turning their lives around and getting them healthy. We're also going to continue to focus on food insecurity, which affects so many in California, and of course disproportionately harms children, because anything poverty related disproportionately harms women and children. And so we're going to continue to work to expand access to CalFresh. We were able to pass legislation this year to make it dramatically easier to apply for CalFresh, a shorter application, applying over the phone, not making it a full-blown DMV experience or EDD experience for people. No offense to DMV. Yes, offense to EDD. I'm so mad at that agency for what it's done over the pandemic. So these are just a few issues that we're focused on, and we'll continue to do that work. So again, thank you to all of you for what you do.
Thank you so much, Senator, and very excited to when the opportunity presents itself to submit all of these important bills for an endorsement of the party. And on a personal note, thank you for your continued work on automated solar permitting, because absolutely it should not, there is no reason why someone trying to do the right thing on by getting solar, no reason for the utilities to overcharge them, and no reason that they have to wait weeks, sometimes months to get a permit. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you. And I would just love to say that the Children's Caucus is really focused on children's mental health issues this year. So we're so grateful for the work you've been doing. I think people didn't realize that our youth were really in crisis before the pandemic hit, and then it even was exacerbated even more. So thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you both.
Thank you. So now we just have a couple of things before we hear from candidates, and then a very uplifting video from Senator Padilla that he recorded for us. So just wanted to provide you with an update on our efforts to implore the party to formalize the existing practice of not accepting contributions from fossil fuel entities and California-based investor-owned utilities. So as probably all of you here have heard, by a vote of about 60 to 40, the E-Board during an October 24th special meeting elected to refer both our motion and a motion from the Block Caucus on law enforcement entities to a committee, which I will refer to as Committee 2.0. It is a joint committee of members of the party platform and finance committee. We have been having some productive meetings with its members. We had a wonderful meeting with Michael Soto last night, one of the co-chairs of this committee. Testimony is due by November 30th, and as soon as I am done speaking here, I will post the link to where you can go and submit testimony on what kind of sources of funding the California Democratic Party should not be accepting, and instead what kind of sources of funding it should be accepting. So please be sure to submit your testimony by November 30th. I believe it's also at 5 p.m. That's the close. The Environmental Caucus will also be submitting testimony. Just as soon, give us a week, give us 3 days to finish the platform submission and get through the rest of the meeting. And then we will send you another link to one more shared Google Doc that we can go to, but I will share the motions that we would like to see passed by the committee to the full CDP delegation in the chat shortly. And now I want to give the floor This is our final update before we hear from some amazing fossil-free candidates. But I'd like to give some time to our NorCal Vice Chair, Julia Prochnik, who has been working on a plan for a just, equitable transition, speaking of the many things we've been speaking about all evening. And Julia, please take it away.
Thank you, Chair Igor, and you're doing a fantastic job. And thanks, RL. Always great to see you. And just want to give another shout out on how important it is to put your input into our platform. It's key. So thank you all very much for sticking with us tonight. Just wanted to share some information. I work with an amazing coalition called the Just and Equitable Transition Coalition, covering the 11 Western states, and working on helping fossil fuel communities transition from fossil fuel to a clean energy economy. And we work with various community leaders on how to fund and finance the transition, whether we use a variety of tools and also help increase technical capacity and job training and so much more. And we've been doing this with a very diverse coalition of local community leaders, labor union workers, environmental justice advocates, environmental advocates, various associations, teachers, physicians, nurses. It's a great group to kind of work together to start really bridging the conversations of why all these different components that have been just referenced tonight and really uplifted by all of our amazing colleagues about why this is so important, because all these pieces of our community are connected to help fight climate change. And so what we'd like to do from a lot of discussions on our environmental caucus listserv and from other caucuses, really try to raise the voice of how we can strengthen relationships among all of us about how do we really create a diverse, just, and equitable transition, and how to bring more voices to the table. And so there are so many amazing advocates here in our state who are fighting really hard in the Central Valley in Southern California, Northern California, along the coast, along the borders, just to really show that this is such an important thing of how we do a just and equitable transition. Other states have set up offices, like a just transition office. There's been various policies. I want to give a shout out to UCLA's Lusk Center report. They did a fantastic job on Justice 40 on really looking at all the different principles to truly make just and equitable transition happen. And what we'd like to do as a caucus is invite other caucus members and all of our members to sign up and start maybe working with us on a working group to really hone in on some policies and some lived experiences that we can share and build stories to strengthen relationships so we can really create and act on a just and equitable transition that we can start today. So what we're asking for is if you'd like to join us in our working group and help educate, translate, be part of this community to really open up more doors and strengthen relationships. We look forward to it. I'll put my email in the chat. Again, we've sent a link out to the organizations, but we're really excited for all of you to come work with us. We work with you together to really work on this just and equitable transition as we leave the fossil fuel community and move into a new economy. So thank you all so much. Looking forward to working with you. Thanks all and have a good night.
Thank you so much, Julia. Back to Chair Crosby.
Thank you, Igor. It is our great pleasure. One of our fellow caucus chairs is here this evening, and we want to give her a moment to speak. Aisha Brown, so we can give her a moment.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Ann and Igor, so much for allowing me to speak. I appreciate it. There's a couple of things I want to briefly talk about. Your meeting's been great so far. You're lucky to have got the second day for your meetings. So the Black Caucus is, if you've looked at the platform language that is being presented, the education plank is the K through 12 platform education plank is proposing some language. And it's excluded Black students in sections calling for focus on improving educational outcomes for historically underserved groups. Currently, about 80,000 Black students do not qualify for the supplemental school funding because They're not low income, they're not English learners, and they're not foster youth. But they are the lowest performing group, only over remedial students. And so our children are suffering. The language is outdated and it ignores the importance of education programs that Black students rely on. Black students are being left behind. 67%, which is about 112,000 students, don't read or write at grade level. And 79%, about 131,000, are not at grade level in math. These are facts. This is stuff you can easily look up and see for yourself. I'm happy that the 5th largest economy in the world cares about English learners, foster youth, and low-income students. But I'm asking the Democratic Party, if they really believe that Black Lives Matter, then we should support the language. And so I'm asking all of you that have a vote or have a voice on the plank or the platform, please support the Black Caucus language. I would really appreciate it. And I know a few of you on here now already are supporting it, and thank you for that. The other issue that I want to talk about real briefly is something that's near and dear to me. It's the Fairness for Injured Patients Act. If any of you guys, probably most of you know about this, I'm sure. In 1975, the California legislature limited the legal rights of patients and their families who were injured or killed by medical negligence. It was called MICRA. They set the limit at $250,000. Today, it's still $250,000. The reason I got involved with the Fairness for Injury Patients Act is because of a guy that his wife went into Cedars-Sinai to have deliver her baby, normal pregnancy, everything was fine. And she ended up dying. The baby survived. They did an emergency C-section, but the mother died. And they cried out for help. They asked, they said she was in pain. For 11 hours, she suffered. And so now Oprah's working with this gentleman on a film. And I heard about it and got involved and learned how bad the mortality rate for Black women is in the United States is horrible. And you can't put a price on a person's life or the trauma it leaves behind. And so I just think that it's time that we really look at this. When we have doctors that are negligent over and over and over, and they know that the cap is $250,000, that they would be fined or have to pay, or their insurance, I think that's horrible. So I'm asking you to, one, please support the platform language. Please, you can go on and read it, and or I can send it to anyone that wants it. And then also the Fairness for Injured Patients Act. And thank you again for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much, Chair Brown. And if you could post in the chat, just when we go in before 5 p.m., when things close down for platform, what are some talking points, or can we just say we support the Black Caucus platform amendments?
I can put some stuff in the chat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Anne.
So we are now coming to that exciting time when we will be introducing candidates for, unfortunately, just a minute or so to be able to make their pitches. While, again, as a caucus, we cannot endorse ahead of the party or in general. All of these candidates have been vetted because they have all signed the fossil-free pledge. So you can't go wrong with any of these candidates. If you are a candidate wishing to address us tonight, please raise your virtual hand now and we will call on you. And first, it's my privilege to introduce Mayor Osorio, who is running for Congress.
Yeah, thank you, Igor. It's great to see you in so many spaces. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Osorio. I am the current mayor of the city of Delano here in Kern County, and it is a pleasure to speak with you all and to be in the same space as you all, although virtually. I'm running for Congress here in California's 21st Congressional District, where we have Representative Republican David Valadeo, who has not helped Central Valley families from voting against the infrastructure bill to voting against the American Rescue Plan Act earlier this year. I'm running for Congress because I want to enact the progressive change that we see within the Democratic Party, from pushing for expansion to healthcare, like supporting Medicare for all and supporting AB 1400. I actually introduced a resolution to the city of Delano earlier this year so that we can send it to Sacramento showing our support, but to also stimulating job growth under a Green New Deal framework. And of course, as a son of Mexican immigrants, I'm proud to support immigration reform. And so I hope I get to meet you all one day when there's convention. And also, if you all want to connect ever over email, let me know. Thanks again, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you so much. And Mayor Osorio has also been a huge champion for automated solar permitting, many other issues near and dear to our hearts. If you wouldn't mind posting your contact info in the chat, and same is true for all the other candidates, just in the, I'm gonna flip with Anne. She will call the next person up in the queue.
And the next person I'm seeing is Mia Livas Porter, who's been with us this evening. And please go ahead. I'm going to add a spotlight. There you go. Welcome.
Thank you, chairs, Igor and Anne. It's been a great meeting. Very inspiring hearing so many leaders, friends that I know and have respect for. I'm Mia Livas Porter. I'm running to represent 8051 in the California Assembly. I'm a mom of 2 boys, activist, survivor, and spokesperson for gun violence. I was excited to see that the Enviro and Children Caucuses were going to join forces tonight because they're both at the heart of my advocacy and campaign. I truly believe that so many wrongs in this world right now could be righted if we invested in our children, teaching them right, giving them a healthy planet, ensuring they grow up feeling safe. But right now we are failing our kids. You know, I started as an activist for our public schools. We need a more equitable public school system so all children can have a chance to thrive. I became an activist with gun violence, wanting to keep our kids safe. Firearms are the leading cause of death for children under 19. And they not only are we not keeping them safe, they're traumatized by active shooter drills. And as what was mentioned earlier regarding children's mental health, absolutely, I believe that mental health, our youth mental health, is equally important as physical health. I want to leave my children a healthy, livable planet, and that's why I embrace the California Green New Deal. And did you know, going back to gun violence, that just by planting trees and investing more green spaces in lower income communities, we can mitigate street violence because the members feel seen, invested in, and have pride in their environment. I signed the no fossil fuel pledge early on, and I am the only candidate in my race who has pledged to take a clean money campaign. I believe we all deserve to feel safe and to have a livable California where we all can thrive, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very excited in my personal capacity, not as a caucus chair, to be clear, but very excited about your candidacy. Next, we have our good friend and fellow troublemaker, Fatima. Fatima, come on up.
All right. Thank you so much. You know, I wanted to apologize that I couldn't be here for the whole meeting. I have this once a month meeting in my district in Watts that I'm on like the community advisory panel for. So, but the moments I heard here were amazing. Yes, so let me just talk a little bit. I know I have a couple minutes who I am. So my background is education. I'm an educator, a community organizer. I'm an immigrant. And why am I running? I'm really running because of failed leadership. I mean, in my mind, our whole state legislature is failing desperately. They're failing awfully, right? And you know, my opponent is kind of the pinnacle of that. I posted information on my opponent because I would not be running with a 7-year-old son, you know, if I didn't feel this urgency. I experience these issues just like my students do, day in and day out. I live a mile from a refinery. My students don't drink clean water, are being, you know, displaced from their neighborhoods, have lived with awful schools their entire life, are working 40 hours a week while going to college. You know, and so this doesn't sit right. And my district is 90% people of color, includes Watts, Compton, Wilmington. It's largely working class. And so, you know, many of you know I ran in 2020 and I'm a fighter. You know, I know sometimes movements take time. I knew I was challenging the caucus chair, but you know, that doesn't scare me. It just says that we need, you know, sometimes we need more time. But we ran a great race, gave him his biggest challenge, got the endorsement, the endorsement from Bernie Sanders, the only endorsement he gave against a sitting incumbent like my opponent. Got the endorsement of Sierra Club, Sunrise Movement, a lot of progressive organizations, Democratic Socialists of America. Really proud of the race we ran. Right now, you know, we've started our field program really early in August, knocked on thousands of doors with really enthusiastic volunteers, raised a lot of money. We're going to go into the primary with 10 times the money than we did last time. So working really hard on fundraising. And, you know, what we really need is just more people power, right? Whether that's in donations, whether that's in people. So if you're in Southern California, please come knock on doors with us. We're actively knocking on doors any time of the week and we need you. This is a very strong people powered campaign. And so we really need you. And we have a goal. So this, you know, up to the end of the year, we want to get 100 recurring donors at only $3 a piece. So there's, you know, I think 69 of you on this call. If a few of you, maybe half of you, maybe all of you do it, we'll get to our goals. I would really appreciate. My platform is on there. I know I didn't expand on it a lot, but it's, you know, I believe in a Green New Deal. My district actually has 33% of California's refining. I mentioned the water issues. It has a really high rate of neighborhood drilling. And so I really want to lead on climate. And as a former educator, I want to lead on education. We have, you know, one of the lowest and poor people funding, and I want to lead on education from the time a child is born till the time, you know, they're pursuing higher education. And so I know there's a lot of other candidates, so I'll leave it at that. I'll post my links again in my email, and please support if you can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fatima. Okay, I think the next person we have is my good friend. I won't is Aisha Wahab. Both Igor and I have known Bob Wykowski, who is our California senator up in our area, and was a city council member in Fremont way back in the day. And I know, having lived in Fremont for a long time, it's really sad to see him term out. And so it's been so important to make sure that we have good candidates. And my friend Aisha Wahab has stepped up. So Aisha, tell us about you.
Thank you. I genuinely appreciate being here. You know, I'll share a little bit about myself. You know, I grew up in the district, Senate District 10. I was actually born in New York City. My family came as Afghan refugees, and my father was murdered in New York City. My sister and I ended up in the foster care system since infancy. I spent a number of years living with all types of people, Blacks, whites, Latinos, you name it, growing up, going to church, and eventually being fortunate enough to be adopted with my sister and raised in Fremont. I graduated public school. I went to San Jose State, got my master's at Cal State East Bay. And genuinely, I have seen so many different things and the reliance on community and how important that is. My family business during the economic downturn tanked. And during that Great Recession, our family home was foreclosed on. With that said, we were priced out of Fremont, and I moved to Hayward, and decided to genuinely make a difference. I've sat on many different nonprofit boards and so forth, but I believe policy was where my natural calling was. I ran for the city of Hayward, their council, and became the youngest woman ever elected and the first Afghan American woman elected to public office in the United States. We made significant strides in the city, from police reform issues to environmental issues to even economic issues such as accelerating the minimum wage and housing at all income levels. I plan to do that very much at the state. And for your specific caucus, I do also want to highlight that my main priority is making sure that our most vulnerable are protected. And that is our children, our seniors, our foster youth, our veterans, and everybody else, because we have to build a society that is inclusive for all people, that protects all people, that all people can thrive. And this means not only housing at all income levels, but also ensuring that we have a planet to give back to our children. The honest truth is I actually served as an environmental consultant for a number of years. I set up a lot of the Fortune 500 companies in the Silicon Valley's e-waste programs, and especially when that, the federal push happened and so forth. I will tell you that I was the sole no vote on the Hayward City Council when they wanted to temporarily landfill low-grade recyclables. I was opposed to it. Though China's one sword policy has been around for years. We knew about it even when I was an environmental consultant. We have not transitioned in regards to the infrastructure and how we do things. And California genuinely is the state that leads, but we are the 5th largest economy in the world. We are a state of innovation, and we have not built this state for the next 50 to 100 years. And that is my goal. Infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. And it's not just roads. It is how we do things across the board. And we know that we have significant problems. We see the growing disparity. This is not what we want to continue. So I will say that, with the significant amount of work that we do, we have to do it as a coalition. So I'm very happy to hear about the Just Equitable Transition Coalition. That is definitely something that I think will make a difference, especially as we've seen so many bills killed off because of the fear of jobs being lost. So I really appreciate, Taisha Brown speaking up on that, as well as many others who presented. And I do want to say that, with the endorsement of Senator Wachowski, Senator Skinner, and Senator Wiener, I believe that I'm the best candidate to represent this district and to represent the need to transition in all aspects of what we can do better, because we have to work for perfect. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm excited to hopefully see you continue to represent us in higher office. Now it is my privilege to turn it over to Derek Marshall. And you will see based on what he's about to tell you that he truly is the real deal.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Igor. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight. My name is Derek Marshall, and I'm running for Congress in California's 8th Congressional District. I'm an organizer. I have experience working on Senator Bernie Sanders' campaign. I also was a volunteer super lead on AOC's campaign. I've worked on a number of progressive campaigns, and I'm really looking forward to taking that energy and just kind of continuing to do building, community building in our own district. I'm running for Congress because the way that I see things, we are headed full speed for a cliff called the absolute worst effects of global climate change, a cliff that includes mass extinction, it includes mass migration, and a cliff that would cause global political instability and global chaos. But as I see things, I also see that there's a way out of this mess. a way that offers the ability to adopt, as I like to say, it's very corny, I know, 2 birds with 1 bird bath through the Green New Deal, which allows us to essentially create a jobs creation program while at the same time helping us to avoid some of the worst effects of global climate change. I believe that we must treat climate change with the same gravitas that we do with our fight against fascism in the Second World War. And I'm really looking forward to kind of organizing alongside you all as we basically stand up to do just that. I am going to make sure that as a member of Congress, that I'm not bought and sold for. That's why I, many, many months ago at the beginning of my campaign, signed on to the Green New Deal pledge, which is very similar to the pledge that I signed on to tonight, which is the fossil-free pledge. I've also am not taking any corporate donations. We're taking small dollar individual donor donations, which I think is really, really important, especially as we work to really pass policy so that any of our decisions and any of our advocacy is uninhibited. With that, I want to thank you all for giving me a couple of moments to chat tonight. I promise to be a fierce fighter for the climate. It's something that is extremely important to my soul, to my existence, and thank you so much tonight. Take care.
Okay, we have one last speaker, I believe, and that is Catherine Blakespear. And she is currently serving as a mayor down in my neck of the woods and has decided to step up and run for Senate. And we're glad to have you here this evening to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me here today. And thank you to everybody who's listening, to the candidates and spending time. I've found this meeting to be really interesting. You've had great people speak. And I think the combination of the Environmental Caucus and the Children's Caucus is really important. As Senator Wiener said, you know, the future is our children, and our planet is the most important thing. I mean, we need to live in greater sustainability with our planet. And having that linkage of those two is just so critical. So thank you for organizing this today and aligning values and platforms. So I'm serve as the mayor in the city of Encinitas. I've been in local elected office for 7 years. So 5 as mayor and then 2 on the city council before that. I've won 4 elections in my city and lost none. And I flipped my seat, my mayor's seat, from red to blue, and I hope to do that same thing for this state Senate seat. So this state Senate seat has not been represented by a Democrat, and this is Southern Orange County and Northern San Diego County since 1882. So this is really a historic opportunity. The last Democrat who ran came very close, but didn't quite make it, and the draft maps that we've seen look very encouraging for a Democrat to be able to win this. So I'm hopeful about that. I've been running for many months now, so I've raised over $300,000, and the Republican in the race is a supervisor in Orange County who's raised a lot less money, but is well known on her side of the fence. So I think that it's really important to, of course, generate all the support and energy we can for the campaign. So I have 2 kids. My husband and I have 2 kids, age 13 and 14, and the kids are 5th generation Encinitans. We share a home with my mom and have a multi-generational family, which is really important to me. And I'm running because I want to bring a climate-centered and sustainable approach to our housing sector, our transportation sector, industry and business. And this is so our future generations can thrive and have a healthy planet to call home. I think that I've been working at the local level very effectively. I'm the chair of SANDAG, our region's transportation agency. And we in the city of Encinitas are really known as climate leaders. We have just enacted the most ambitious REACH code for building electrification in Southern California. And so that means that all new commercial and residential buildings will be all electric. So they cannot have the gas infrastructure that will become stranded infrastructure. We also moved to a CCE, and we have 100% renewable as our default energy source. We've really leaned into the waste sector in terms of our organics. It was mentioned earlier by one of the speakers that the making it really easy for people to take their green waste to not be landfilled, basically to be composted and then also turned into usable gas at a digester. There was a mention of safe routes to school. Transportation projects are the most interesting thing and the most important. 50% of emissions come from the transportation sector. And so safe routes to school is something that we've really been focused on. You know, there are so many kids between the ages of 10 and 16 who cannot drive, but parents would feel comfortable sending their kids on their bike or walking if it was safe. So having cities and then states and counties, I mean, at all levels, prioritizing that and building that infrastructure is just so important. So thank you so much for giving me a few minutes to introduce myself to you. I hope to earn your support over the months that come, 6 months till the primary. And we'll put some information in the chat if you want to follow our campaign and get the newsletter and that. And thank you again for your interest.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say that it is so nice to see women step up into these roles as Senate candidates, because we are not equally represented at this time. And yes, I know, Igor, you're a supporter of equal representation all over. So it's been nice to see such wonderful candidates come out. And although the caucuses don't do endorsements, we're always happy to see good people run.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is now my pleasure to introduce Stacy Fortner, our Enviro Caucus Policy Director, and she will close us out with a video. Stacy?
Hi, thanks everybody, and thanks for sticking around. We still have 59 people here, and that's a big deal at 8 o'clock on a Thursday night. So I thank everyone for sticking around. It is my pleasure to introduce someone who has served in the, who's been in public service probably more than half of his life, I'll say. Started out on LA City Council, is the proud son of Mexican immigrants. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, Senator Padilla, who lives in my district. By the way, I am the AD chair, and so I have had to reach out to him on several occasions, and he's very responsive, and he also he cares about what's going on in his district, and that's always refreshing for someone like me who tries really hard to get our electeds. In my district, if you know where I live, I'm in Santa Clarita, I'm in CA 25, I'm in 8038, and we have a rough go here because we're the last bastion of Republican held seats in Los Angeles County. So for us, it's difficult to get participation from our elected officials, but Alex is always there for us. So I appreciate him on just the superficial level of having him represent my state. He also represents my community. So he's a mechanical engineer from MIT. And without further ado, I'll let Igor get the video started. But just one last thing that I want to mention while I have you all as a captive audience. Redistricting is going on right now, and I sit day after day after day on these redistricting calls, and I try to be one of the last callers of the evening. And I know that sounds insane. You want to get in and out, right? But a lot of the times, the last thing that you hear is the first thing that you remember. And so I try to be one of the last callers because my district is in such, the drawings that we have now, or the visualizations as they're calling them, look really good right now, but that could change with just, 10 people calling in from the other side that wants something different than what I want or what you want. And so if you want your maps to change, you have to participate. This is a fully public participation on the most important, most dire levels. And I can't stress enough how important your voice is right now, because this is going to mold the next decade of our existence here in California. And so get on the phones, send in your emails, you know, do your thing, whatever your jam is. If you're better at writing than you are at speaking, then write those letters and get them in, but do it, and do it now, please. So with that said, I'm off of my soapbox. Igor, you can take it away. You can watch this fabulous video from Senator Padilla. And I hope that you respect him as much as I do, and know that he's responsive. He cares. And when I call, he answers. And right now he is helping me get a friend of mine out of Afghanistan. And his office is in constant contact with me, and hopefully we'll get them out soon. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And thank you, Igor. And have a great night. This has been a wonderful meeting, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Anne is actually going to run the video. The one thing I still remember from my mechanical engineering training is the person who has not tested out the video should probably not be the one running it. So thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Hello, Democrats. It's great to be with you today. I'd like to start by recognizing your caucus for your tireless efforts to safeguard our environment for future generations. Protecting our environment is the most important thing we can do to protect the future of our children. That's why I'm proud to be a sponsor of the Green New Deal. In just under a year, we've taken bold action in Congress to give our children access to cleaner water and cleaner air. We recently passed the bipartisan infrastructure deal, which will allow us to build a greener infrastructure for our future, protect California's diverse ecosystems, and deliver safe drinking water to all American families. We'll also advance our environmental justice priorities through billions to clean up polluted and contaminated sites, which we know have a disproportionate impact on communities of color. We know it's time to go big on protecting our planet. Through Build Back Better, we will make the largest effort to combat climate change in American history. This means reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 50% and investing in a clean sector economy that spans all sectors. We've seen inaction on climate change for too long, and now we have a real opportunity to build a green economy. But we can only do it if we retain our Democratic majority in the House and in the Senate in 2022. And we can't do it without your help. Together, we can ensure that our country continues to lead the way with policies that protect our planet. And I hope I can count on you and your support next year. Thank you for being part of the fight.
Thank you so much. It has been truly a privilege to share the space with all of you tonight. And I wanted to give a shout out to our officers, and especially to Anne and all the officers and members of the Children's Caucus with whom we have had the opportunity to do this together.
It's been a huge pleasure, Igor, and I think it's been really informative, and all the presenters who took the time to speak to our members this evening. I thank you so much, and thank you, Igor, for the time that we've had fun planning this meeting. So it's been great, and I hope we can do it again in the future.